Thank you. Well, good evening, everyone. Today is Wednesday. In fact, on the agenda, it says Tuesday because I forgot to change that. It is Wednesday, April 13th, 2011. We are the Goffstown Budget Committee, and we'll take the roll, starting with Sue, and go counterclockwise, please.
Suzanne Tremblay.
I believe I would be next. Lisa Jukes.
Elizabeth DeBrule.
Ivan Beliveau.
Guy Karen.
Dan Cloutier.
Bill Gordon.
John Burt.
Richard Fletcher.
Phil Kendall.
Checker Hansen.
You're going to come to the mic and say your name.
John Dillon.
There we go. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 in attendance. Jen Getchell will be a little late. Scott Gross will be a little late. And Steve LaRose is excused, and I have not heard from Bill Bates yet. He may have mentioned something to me last month, so I'm going to hold that open. We may or may not see him. Wonderful. We welcome school representative Suzanne Tremblay back.
I didn't have to fight for the job.
I don't think so. I was wondering whether or not, so do you
not
get
what I
out of a
heard.
lot of the other
I do have
committees?
an alternate, though.
Who is the alternate?
Who is the alternate? Jen Theroux.
Okay.
Who has also an alternate?
All right. So if you guys will please turn to the meeting minutes of March 16th, please. Or was it March 15th? I think it was the 15th.
Close enough.
Yeah, 50.
Yeah.
March 15th. And so my agenda is wrong there too. Boy, this is not working out well. March 15th agenda. Do we have a motion to bring it forward?
Sure. So moved.
I'm gonna make you a second. I heard Guy first. Moved by Guy, seconded by Bill Gordon. I might be a little more thorough in my speech tonight because I just got an email before we arrived from our scribe indicating she was stuck at work and couldn't be here. So she is going to do minutes from the video. So as long as Andrew does a fantastic job, we should be good to go. All right, we have 10 pages of meeting minutes. Does anyone have any alterations to them?
I have a question.
Yes, Philip?
On page, the 7th page, there was a discussion between you and Elizabeth on the, and Elizabeth, you might have to answer this one, but it's the 1, 2, 3, 4, fourth paragraph down. I don't quite remember it going that way, but it could be just the way that our scribe transposed the gist of the discussion.
Okay, let me just read, do you mind if I read it, so to make
Absolutely
sure?
not.
This is the one that says another advantage to have a report?
No, the one below that one.
Okay, Dan says, Elizabeth, you should either be on the SB or BOS. Commissioning a study before the budget would be more of a governing board. They do not report to the BC. If we need this information, we could do this. Was it the last sentence,
I think it-
Elizabeth?
Well, I think it was was it you should take it to them, or she should be, I mean, I guess it doesn't really make a big difference.
I believe what my idea was for on this, and it kind of captures the way I was thinking about it. She was looking at the paragraph before saying, maybe we should get some of this information to figure out what we're going to do. And I had mentioned that I believe that was a governing board. And in order for her to want to do that, she would be on the governing board for that to do. So it's the same gist. I believed it was a governing board that should commission the report. Is that what you remember, Elizabeth?
Yeah, but I remember my response being pretty close to this. I think what I said was something along the lines of, but if we're going to use this information, we should get it.
Do you want to make a modification to that?
Yeah. Can I make one other modification too?
Well, let's do this one first so that because I'm going to write it down just to make sure that.
I thought I said something like, if we're going to use this information, we should get it.
Okay. Everybody okay with that? Do you have anything further, Phil, before I go around? Because Checker had her hand up too.
Nope, that was it.
I had a question.
We'll come back to you, Elizabeth.
Oh.
After. No, you had your hand up first.
Okay. I had a question, going back to how we've changed our meeting dates. to what is now gonna be the second Wednesday.
Yes.
I'm sorry, it's on page 5. And it's come to my attention that if we continue meeting the second Wednesday of the month,
Yep.
we won't be able to have representatives from the SAU be here in future meetings because the SAU representatives have to be in New Boston the second Wednesday of the month for the school board meetings that they have out there. So if we needed Ray
Is that,
here-
is that in the minutes?
Well, it's in the minutes that we're,
No, 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 what we're doing right now
Correcting the
on the
minutes.
table is correcting the minutes.
Oh, I'm
We're-
sorry.
We're
I'm
not there
sorry.
yet.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay, that's a good question, we'll hold it off for a little bit later.
Okay.
Mine's easy, my name's just spelled wrong.
Is that a problem?
Everywhere?
At the top, it's okay.
Not the Elizabeth.
No, the
Oh,
Elizabeth is
we're
fine, it's the
missing
DeBrule.
E.
At the top and they're present, it's correct, but then it's misspelled throughout. But, I mean, I don't really care that much, but, you know,
Well, yeah, we do, so we will correct spelling of names.
Which one do you like?
it's gotta be all the U's. My husband will get mad if it's misspelled.
It should be D-U.
D-U-B-R-U-L-L.
Oh, okay. There's only one E, and it's at the end.
Right.
Okay. Further corrections of the minutes, and,
Well, my
Scott has joined us, and I didn't know if you wanna say your name for the camera, Scott?
excuse me?
Just say Scott.
Oh, Scott.
Gross.
Gross.
All right, he's here.
Is he new?
Is he new? Potentially.
Excuse me?
Don wants to know if you're new.
New? Yeah, new. My name's misspelled while we're on names. It's just O-N, not I-O-N, all over the place.
Dillion. Okay, so we have DeBrule and Dillon. D-I-L-L-O-N. Anybody have a problem with that one? All right. Oh, yeah, that's hard to see. As I look through my bifocals. Everybody else's name okay? All right. Any further modifications to the minutes? Seeing none, I'll ask for your hands on accepting the minutes as corrected. I'm gonna go through the opposed side. Opposed? Abstained. 1, 2, and that's because,
I was not here.
and you were not here. Okay. So, if I do the count right, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 members present. So that would be 11-0-2.
And unlike you, Dan, that was my first meeting I missed, which you have not missed any.
That is correct. Okay. Public comment. Is there anyone wishes to make a public comment? Motionless. Okay, let's go forward. Old business. One of the things we talked about last week was in our organization and whether or not, how we were gonna do that kind of thing. So over the last month, I've thought about it and talked about it, and what I'd like to do is I'm gonna appoint Guy Karen as the vice chair. And he can help me do some of the analysis and things that I'm doing to put some stuff together and communicate with you, and in case I am absent, and as you said, I've never been, but who knows, this might give me incentive. No, not really. So officially, I wanted to put that in the minutes. Next is CIP membership. We had talked a little bit about my feelings about CIP. I did get the letter. I did send it to you guys. I will reiterate what I was saying, which is we do not have a voting representative on the school board. We do not have a voting representative on the Board of Selectmen. We don't have a voting position on, well, let's put it this way, on any other board except the one we're on. But all budgets come through us. It didn't make sense for me, in lieu of not getting a volunteer last year, to go the extra mile to plead and get, to have a representative of the Budget Committee, who, by the way, is supposed to be voting the will of the Budget Committee as a representative on that board, to then have that go through the planning board and come back to us. It's almost like we're getting two cracks at the shot. That's how I feel. I am open to what you guys want to do. So let me first ask how you feel about having representation on that, on CIP. I sent you the schedule. Yes, Sue?
I would strongly urge that the Budget Committee send a representative to CIP. And I would disagree what's, on page 9, bottom paragraph. Dan, you state that CIP is like a governing body. It is not. It is the only committee in this town that does actual planning for the future. 5 and 6 years out. And it's important for the Budget Committee to be represented there. Granted, the selectmen take a lawnmower to our plan every year, but the responsibility for CIP is to put forward a plan of what the town truly needs. It's their job to decide how much we can afford. But it is the only real planning group in town.
In respect to that, Sue, I would disagree that it is the Budget Committee that says how much we can afford. And that's what we do. That's what the Budget Committee is, in my opinion, is to see what we can afford and what we can put forward. The selectmen might get first crack at it, but then they have to come back to us.
They use a lawnmower, you guys use a backhoe.
Yeah, you are a voting member.
And I never
So-
vote for that stuff.
That's correct. So, okay, so you would, okay. Anybody else? Elizabeth?
Can I propose a compromise here? Because I understand your objections about the voting member.
Sure.
And we talked about this a little bit last time, about having a non-voting member.
Yep.
Because if you approach it as an informational, an attempt to gather information. I mean, $1.6 million was cut from CIP last year. That's a huge chunk of money. And I think we need to have somebody there collecting that information, even if we never authorize them to take a vote. So that might be a compromise.
I'm not really looking at it myself as a information gathering. If this committee were to send a member, it would be duty-bound to vote.
Why?
I
You
would
don't
think.
vote a lot of the time.
I vote all the time. There isn't a vote you're gonna find in the minutes where I did not vote.
Well, you abstain.
I've abstained very few times, but it's a vote, not to make a decision. I have all the records and I'll show them to you. I have voted most of the time. Scott?
I mentioned this at the last meeting. I've been on CIP a few times. I've also been on CIP when I was a member of the school board and as a member of the Board of Selectmen. There were times when I took a vote in CIP and I voted one way, and then 4 months later I voted another way as a member of another board, simply because the realities, things changed. It's a planning tool. It just tries to even out capital expenses. And above all, I think what it does is it prioritizes what some of these capital expenses are, and it provides more information. I think in the worst case scenario, there will be a representative who will be able to bring back information to this board, who will have firsthand knowledge and advanced knowledge of some of the bigger expenses that are out there. So when we do have discussions, it's just one more person who can say, yeah, but when I was on CIP, I remember that the fire chief said this about a fire truck or an ambulance or our need to do X, Y, or Z.
Okay.
And it's a good thing, I think. And the other thing, too, is that it's the more good minds around a table during that planning process, the better the outcome as well. And I think having somebody here would assist in that endeavor.
Okay. Phil?
I was just saying how you voted doesn't really affect this discussion, that's all I was.
Right. One of the things I'm looking at, so if we do go forward and someone volunteers, or multiple people volunteer, because we talked about that as well, whether, it was my feeling, if it's information gathering, we're all a budget committee, there's also another feeling it could be any one of the 16 members, not just the 12 elected members. Which then, I'll tell you why that bothers me, is because then, for instance, if Sue were to represent the budget committee from representing the school board, how does she vote? Does she vote the way the school board would want her to vote, or the way the budget committee would want her to vote? I mean, there's a quandary there. The same thing with Scott. The same thing with either Bill or Dick. I mean, because they're representatives not from the people, so that's where I'm I have a little,
Yeah, we
Question
don't,
there.
on CIP, we don't vote the way somebody else directs us to vote.
Right.
You prioritize the needs.
don't you vote on how the priority is?
Yeah. To put them in what year, try to level off the capital expenses so the tax rate doesn't take big hikes one year and drop the next.
Okay.
But we don't vote as directed by, say, the Board of Selectmen. The school board doesn't tell me how to vote when I go there.
And that was my next point. Why not? You're there to represent the school
No,
board at
that's
that
not what
point.
I'm doing on CIP. On CIP, we're planning.
Yeah.
It is then the school board's responsibility to decide how much of that money they want to put in their budget, as well as the Board of Selectmen, and it comes to
Same
you.
thing, yeah.
Which,
It's purely a planning thing. We don't vote as directed.
And the other part of that process, you gotta remember, is when it comes from that from that group, it goes to the planning board. And the planning board has to say what they submit to the selectmen.
I find it.
That's a planning tool, it's part of the planning. board.
Okay, I'm still not totally on board with the process, but I am open to, do you understand, let me ask this question, do you still understand the same thing, Scott, that if we would to appoint someone to be on that committee, that they wouldn't take direction from this committee on what to do? They would, well, the other question is, because the meetings are May 19th, June 2, June 16, June 30th, July 7, 21, August 4, 18, and September 8th, a lot of those dates are those which this committee has traditionally not met in July and August. So it would be tough to get direction. So, I mean, as, from your position, do you see?
I don't see a problem with that, because
Okay.
I think that it's, whoever it is, they vote at their own free will. I mean, and that's how, I mean, I've never been told, when I was on the school board or the Board of Selectmen, how to vote on a CIP issue.
Which baffles me somewhat, but.
No, because you're part of a group of people that's looking to plan. Now,
Right.
when it does get to the governing board, then you have
You can
one
move things
vote,
around if you want. Okay.
You know?
Question
Yes, Guy.
of Scott. So, when you go to the CIP, are you representing the Budget Committee, the Board of Selectmen, or the general public?
I'm representing, like, if I was, let's say I was CIP, like, I think Nick did it last year.
Right.
Nick is representing the Board of Selectmen. He is our representative. He's not, but he's just told, you do with what you think is the right thing to do, and as we all know, that it's a planning thing, you know, and it's kind of like, you have your master plan. Well, this is your financial short-term master plan, and you're trying to get some good minds around the table to try to equal things out, hear what the priorities are, and set forth a plan. It's not a plan set in stone by any stretch of the imagination. It's just simply a tentative plan. And we all know, as Sue, you said, it does get whacked depending upon, you know, different situations. But at least it's a plan. You're talking about what are your short and medium-term needs. That's a good thing to be talking about.
Bill? Okay, so the question, I'm gonna look for you guys now to say, do you want to continue and do you want to go down a discussion of finding someone who will represent or attend as part of the Budget Committee? John?
I believe if we have a member there, which I am not volunteering for because of time, that member should be a voting member.
Absolutely.
If it's not a voting member, don't waste
Waste
our
of time.
Agreed.
I agree with that.
Agreed. I think we all agree.
Okay,
Does
well,
anyone
I-
not agree with that?
I thought I heard talk back and forth of non and voting.
Well,
Oh, when you say voting member, no, it was non-elected by the people or appointed from this committee. It could be any one of these 16 people. That's a different topic than what you were saying.
Okay.
Do you agree with any one of the 16 or just one of the 12?
I think it should be one of the 12.
Me too.
Okay.
Sorry.
John?
I was just gonna say, you know, whether the person votes there or not, to me, the value is that you have someone coming to all of our meetings who's been to many or most of the CIP meetings, and maybe they can, you know, maybe they can add to the conversation or bring, I don't know, some insights about the planning process that's going on there. I think it can only help. It can't hurt. I mean, you know, I don't have time to do it. If I did, I'd be interested in doing it, because it would be interesting, but anyway.
Ivan?
I might be interested, but I couldn't go to the May 19th.
He's in. I
Can ask a
nominate,
question?
uh,
Can I ask a question?
Done.
Yes, Elizabeth.
Dangerous move.
That Sue and Scott and Bill have all served on CIP before. Is it the kind of thing where you could jump in for a meeting or two? Could we split it up? Or is it the kind of thing where if you jump in the middle, you're gonna be like, I don't know what's going on?
It's not,
I think you'd have to be there.
you really, I mean, do they be at every single meeting? No. But should you be at the majority of them? Yes, because you're hearing the different priorities. So you might hear DPW, and they're talking about their trucks. And then the next one is the fire department, and you're hearing about their needs. It's kind of hard to prioritize when you see a big spike in one year, and you gotta move things around. When you didn't hear two of the presentations,
So
it's
we really
hard.
can't split it up.
Not
We
really.
do, we
I
really
would-
gotta appoint a person.
I would not recommend it.
Okay.
What are the dates, Dan?
Yeah, that was the
We got Ivan.
I make a motion.
May 9th, June 2nd,
It's every other Thursday,
June
whenever the
16th,
planning board's not in this room.
June 30th. So you have 3 in June, 2, 16, and 30.
So the first one is
May 19th.
5/9.
It's an organizational meeting, then the Goffstown Village Water Precinct, Grassmere Water Precinct, and the Fire Department are, this was the presentation schedule that was draft as of April 5. And then it's July 7 and 21. And then August 4 and 18. Then the September 8th Planning Board doesn't meet on the fourth Thursday in August, so they plan on presenting, I guess, on the August 18th, and then the Planning Board would hear the hearing and adoption on September 8th. That's the plan. And there's the PDF right there. And if Andrew can zoom right there with his camera, we can put that up live, too. He's shaking his head back there, okay. Is that a volunteer? Do we have you as a volunteer for the moment, Ivan?
For the moment.
So moved.
Second.
That's,
Third.
I think that's unanimous. Okay, anybody else? I don't want to let anybody else not get in on this party, if that's what they're thinking.
You
Okay,
get fed, I think, too, Ivan, so.
Huh?
okay, I will let,
Does that mean that you want to do it?
You get fed a
I
line.
am doing CIP for schools.
Oh, there you go, you'll get fed
You
too.
don't
They're all
get fed.
public, right? So anybody can go and sit.
they should be all public, yes.
So we can go sit even if we're not,
But
I
you
would
just don't
think.
get to eat.
They'd probably
You just don't get to eat, yeah.
be thrilled to see something.
okay.
The shrimp scampi was great last year, I don't know what you
Hey,
guys.
Dan,
Yes, Phil?
kind of a point of order on the vice chair thing.
Yeah.
Do we need to take a vote on that?
I don't think so, and I've been opining over this for 4 weeks.
Really?
Scott, did, Mr. Devanza
No.
take a vote? Did Mr. Pancos take a vote on the vice chair?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
And this committee historically has voted on the vice chair.
This committee?
Yes.
Yeah.
Not in the last 8 years. We've never had
Compared to
one.
your,
Well, that's
Right.
not true.
No, even the
That's
2
not-
years,
that is true.
we never had a vice chair.
When
Yes, we did.
When we had the sub-chairs, we voted,
They were vice chairs.
You were appointed. I appointed you,
And
Philip.
it was, but it was voted if it was okay.
No, it wasn't. When John appointed me back in
Yes.
the
8 years
day.
ago.
Yeah,
7 years ago.
actually 7 years ago, as the
side.
school subcommittee chair.
Okay,
Yeah.
It didn't go for a vote for the two. Put it this way, do you guys want to go through that?
no.
I mean,
I
It's-
don't care, just,
basically what it is, for me, I was looking for some help. And what I wanted to do is just have, if I wasn't here, someone that would automatically have the hat to run the meeting, so that would be already there, and someone who could officially ask questions of the various governing bodies as it was official from this committee.
well, if you're gonna use the word official, I say we should take the vote on it just so that we get the approval from the whole board.
Okay? Anybody good with, I heard yes, I heard a no, anybody else?
No,
No what? No take a vote?
I don't see a need.
Okay. Is there someone else that wanted to be vice chair?
That's, yeah, I'm just, so it's official on the books and
Okay.
it's all voted and that's all.
All right, so let me put it this way, without doing it, I would like to appoint, Dick, what do you normally say when there's only one? I don't want to open up nominations, but I didn't want to go down that whole road, because,
That the chairman cast one back. Well,
right, but that's more official.
for.
Let me put it this way, does anyone have, no, I don't wanna do that
Move
either.
nomination seats and the clerk.
Well, I haven't opened up, we haven't opened up nominations.
Oh, okay.
Open them up and I'll move them.
Now you gotta do it, because
We're
otherwise
sending-
there's like a
we're sending-
shadow.
We're sending a
Do it.
precedent that I haven't thought about, but let's do this. Let me just throw it in. Okay. There are nominations for a vice chair.
I nominate Guy Karen.
Second.
Actually, there's no seconds needed for nominations, actually.
But you have to ask 3 times.
We're making the Congress look good tonight.
I could do this one. Are there any further nominations for vice chair? Are there any further nominations for vice chair? Are there any further nominations for vice chair? Nominations are closed. Dick?
I'll
Move that
move
the
that the
secretary.
clerk cast one ballot for, Guy Karen for vice chair.
Okay, cool. So moved. Passed. Done. Cool. CIP, Ivan is, do you guys want to vote on Ivan too, or could I just appoint him?
Might as well.
Might as well. I mean, we're starting a precedent. I'm not
Hey,
sure
you
we
might as
want to
well,
go
if we
through,
want to
but.
keep going down the road then.
Okay, so, nominations to appoint a representative at CIP, they're open. I nominate Ivan. Everybody nominates Ivan.
He already wrote
That will be
down
the
the
first
names.
unanimous vote here, except for the motion to adjourn.
Okay, any further nominations for CIP membership? Once, twice, 3 times, close it. Dick,
Same thing.
got it. Thank you.
Nice.
I do believe planning is really important. Plan your work, work your plan.
That he does.
Nobody's running against you, you don't have to make a speech.
I'm gonna change my
You've already
vote
been appointed. You've already been appointed.
Okay.
for life.
Now, you already mentioned you can't make May 19th?
No.
Is there someone who might be able to make May 19th just to take notes to keep Ivan up, or do
That
you
would be
think?
huge.
I'll get them on DVD of the meeting.
Okay,
We'll get you notes.
and you can watch the DVD? All right, cool, that works. I will, if all goes the way it should, I will is it Tim? Who sent me the email? But Tim is the chair, right?
Tim Redmond, right?
Yeah.
I think he's the chair, so
Yes.
I'll go ahead and let him know that Ivan will be officially reporting on behalf of this committee
You will be very happy,
without instruction.
because last year was the first year CIP didn't send it.
Yeah, and we
I
didn't
mean,
have a
Budget
voting.
committee didn't send anybody to CIP.
Okay.
So as a voted member, Ivan is.
Oh, yeah, I mean, we're not going on there without one voting. So, yeah, he can vote for the planning,
Yes.
and he'll come back and talk to us about it. Any further old business that you guys have? Checker.
Is this the right time?
Yeah, this is the right time,
Okay.
I think so.
Okay.
Oh.
I was taking my directives from Jen. I said, Jen, when do I bring that up? She said, when they bring it up in the minutes, so I apologize.
Okay.
I'm still new with this. So I'm wondering how people feel about that. The SAU,
Remind us.
the SAU board has to be in New Boston the second Wednesday of every month for their school board meeting there. So as we go on in this process and we're wanting to ask questions of the business manager and the superintendent, they won't be able to be present at these meetings to answer those questions for us.
We might be a little premature in that anyway, because
Okay.
these are the regular monthly meetings. I don't remember the last time we did a budget deliberation on a Wednesday.
Okay.
I can't remember. It's traditionally been the last number of years, Tuesday, Thursday, Tuesday, Thursday, Tuesday, Thursday. We did a Tuesday, Wednesday once because there was a conflict on a Thursday, or we did a Wednesday, I can't remember, but it was rare. Phil?
Actually, in my discussions with the folks upstairs today, they were unaware that we switched to the second Wednesday of the month.
Don knew. Mr. Barrow knew.
No, if he did, he has a heck of a poker face.
Oh, okay.
He just started.
I know.
Yeah.
But
Oh, I thought he did, but.
But the issue that came out was that, they were saying that they get reports out within the first 10 days of the month.
Yep.
They're, and they've been getting to us pretty within like 7 days.
His first month was phenomenal.
But I'll tell you, there could be a chance where we don't have our month's report when we have our meeting.
I think we talked about that last month when we said
Right, we said
we
fine.
could always work off the one prior because we're not into everyone,
We did talk about
Jen
that.
has,
You're right. I appreciate,
Yeah.
yeah, you're right. We did talk about that.
and I don't think it's gonna be a big deal.
No, I just wanted to bring it
AJ.
up again, yes. I
Okay.
didn't want to bring it up again, I wanted to bring it up, but I forgot we talked
Sure.
about it.
No,
so-
it's a relevant thing for people to come up to mind again, if you think it's a problem. I'm thinking that when we look at what we did last time, we were meeting, and we started meeting in September with the selectmen on Monday evenings, not last year, the prior years when we got together. We did a one-day Saturday last year. Old business, now's a good time. How did you guys feel about the one Saturday? I think we talked about it, versus 6 or 7 Mondays.
I had the same question that my board wanted to know what you
Yep.
wanted to do.
So guys, perfect question. I mean, do you want, when we get into the budget, to come every Monday for a presentation of, and they stagger them, and I think it's about 6 or 7 different Mondays, when the department heads present their budgets to the selectmen, the budget committee would be in this room, and we would have the opportunity of inquiring of the department heads at that time, along with the selectmen. And it would be just every Monday for a series of weeks. Or, did it work out well just to have a long Saturday? We started at about 9 o'clock and we ended up somewhere between 2:30 and 3.
Two-ish, yeah.
So it was about a 6-hour Saturday session. Which do you feel would you get more bang for the buck? Do you need to think about it, or? Go ahead, Elizabeth, the hand moves.
Yeah, I mean, I probably watched the selectmen's meeting anyway,
Yeah,
so, I mean, I don't really feel that strongly about it, but if I'm gonna watch the selectmen's meeting anyways, then I don't really need to do it again on a whole Saturday. I mean, it'd be easier to be at the selectmen's meeting and have all the questions get hashed out at once, in my opinion. I mean,
Okay.
like I said, I don't feel that strongly about it, but
there's one. Oh, hand move, Bill.
I have a preference for the Monday night.
You have a preference for Monday night.
6 hours of
Others?
listening to that stuff.
John,
is
you were
too
here.
long.
You've been here for 2 years, right?
1 year.
1 year, so you've only seen the Saturday.
Yeah,
All right,
I
you're
wouldn't
off the
mind,
book.
well, I wouldn't mind trying the Monday.
Okay. You've been here and you've done it
Yeah.
both, no, both ways?
You know, there's advantages to the two.
Yeah.
On the Monday nights, the question, I mean, the budgets are presented to the selectmen, not directly to us and only us. On the other hand, you do get to break it up a little bit. You're not trying to absorb 6 or 7 presentations in one shot. You get one. You go home, you think about it, you review it. You ask your questions at the selectmen's meeting. So there's advantages to both. I can't throw my hat into either ring,
and we
actually.
still get a follow-up, right? I mean, we still get to
Yes.
invite the department
Yes.
heads back.
We'll still
and do
have
a
follow-ups,
follow-up.
yes. And it's just money. Ivan, you've been here for, what, 5?
Me?
Yeah,
No, 3 or 4.
is that it? All right. You've seen it both ways. Is that 5?
No, I just wanted to add another comment.
Oh,
That
okay.
I think it's, I agree, there's good in both ways. On the other hand, I think I would say, I think I prefer the Saturday because, because there's I have other things going on in different nights. Monday night's definitely tough for me, and we're gonna be Tuesday and Thursday for other meetings. One Saturday to knock a lot off is easier for
Just to
me.
help you, we won't be doing Tuesdays and Thursdays at that time.
No, I know, but later
Later in the season,
then
yes.
then there's other things, so we're hitting all these days.
Yep.
I'd rather get it all done on Saturday if we can.
Were you hoping I was gonna skip you, Ivan?
Yes.
Okay. Got a preference, Lisa?
Yeah, I would rather do a Saturday for the same reason.
Okay. Sue?
I guess I would want it to, excuse me, I'd want to know if we're gonna have the budgets before.
Yes.
Because getting them the night they present to the selectmen is useless.
I agree
Agreed.
with that strongly.
Agreed. Now, I believe we got the entire book
You did.
packet of the department's submission prior to the first presentation in
We
September.
did.
That's how it's been in the
That's
past.
very helpful.
As long as there's not voter registration that day,
Right.
I prefer the Saturday. I mean, 6 or 7 Monday nights in a row, it's
It's,
a downer.
yeah. Jen?
I've only lived through the Saturday, but I found it to be, as a new member especially, very useful. But the other thing that I liked about it, was having some information ahead of time and being able to have your questions prepared ahead of time. And then, as Elizabeth had said, you can always bring them back. I mean, several Monday nights, I just think it's hard on family commitments, that's for sure. So I think I second John and Lisa
Becker?
as well, yeah.
I'm okay with most Saturdays.
Okay. Phil?
I agree with the 1 day hit. I've done it the other way, and, I mean, I agree. You get a little bit absorb it is a wonderful thing, but the commitment of everything else, I think a one day would be better for me.
Scott?
One day. And I say that for a couple of reasons. First and foremost is that I think it clogs up the selectmen's agendas for that 6-week period.
It does.
And secondly, if I were in your shoes, I'd rather just kill one day or 6 hours of one day and be done with it than than be committed to 6 Mondays. And I just think that, I mean, I think you guys meet a lot, but then to add that on top of it, and you have like 1 or 2 school board presentations. If I could ask one thing that is sometimes difficult is when I think we did a Saturday for the school as well. I like that because I got a chance to go to it. When it's on a Monday, I can't, then I can't always go to it, so.
Dick?
I would prefer the one Saturday.
John?
I would probably do the one day.
And do we hear from Bill?
I'm against the one day.
Okay.
I can't absorb that much data. I lose it after about 3 hours. So the whole afternoon's gone.
If we gave you a half-hour nap?
No, I have to nap for an hour and a half.
An hour and
Thank
a
you.
half, all right. Okay, I will talk after.
You know,
Guy?
I just realized there is the advantage to the one day is that one can attend or watch the selectmen's meetings prior to that one day. Like this past year, I had already seen all these things, so I knew what questions I wanted to ask, because I had watched them. Yeah, the one day's a pretty good shot.
There was more one day than there were actual Mondays. I've been at both, and I've actually been at the one where we didn't do that, where we actually had the department heads present to the selectmen, and then when they were done that, we got the selectmen's budget. They came back in and they presented to us. We've had the advantage, and it worked better, that the initial presentation comes to both of us. Then we get to absorb a little bit, and then we have, and it's worked out pretty good, where we grabbed a couple of days and said, okay, we're gonna talk about fire, get the extra questions, get them out. We didn't go right into deliberation. In the past, we had gone right into deliberation where we'd actually make motions, talk about it. One question would last 45, 50, 60 minutes because we would bring everybody in and get more information and it would just go around. We made a change last year, the year before, where we got a lot of information. It's to keep asking and pounding your questions. And when we go into debate, it's just us who debate. That seems to have made it smoother. But not to go too far, let's stick with the one day. I think that's what I heard, the majority of you guys. If we can schedule the one day, for this point, that's what I heard the committee. Yes, Scott?
In terms of location, the Board of Selectmen discussed it. We felt this was a poor location
Okay.
for the presentation because the room was too small.
Okay.
And we felt that if we do this, it should be at the high school,
Okay.
where it's in the media center.
Is there a possibility we could enhance the audio?
We could get a sound, I'm sure that they have a sound system.
Well, they
Yeah.
do have the microphone they use like a.
What usually happens is you will get the selectmen around the table where it's set up for people to hear, and then when the budget committee starts going further out, I have difficulty hearing everything when you get beyond a certain area. That's why I'm saying, if we had some speakers or microphones or something, that would be great, and I don't mind that at all, I'm just,
That's vital.
Yeah.
If that air conditioner is on, half the people are gonna hear nothing.
I gotta believe they got a sound system they had the deliberate session.
well, let's do this, Scott. If you want to do that, can you see if
Yeah.
there's something that we can
Yeah.
do about that?
The step room is another possibility as well.
Oh, I don't
Or
know.
the auditorium.
That's not a bad idea.
The step room that's what it's for. It's
Yeah.
for lectures,
And actually, in that room,
They have,
you don't need a mic system necessarily, but they do have the Vizio,
They have
you
all-
have
they
some
have
seats, you
everything
have
there.
chairs,
But they
you
do
have
have-
desks to put your laptops
Yep.
on. That's not a bad idea.
just
Is that
get-
something you could inquire about, Sue,
I will
for us?
indeed do that.
You can't do a live broadcast from the auditorium, though.
Oh, it's not the auditorium, it's the step room.
Okay, I don't know
But
where
it's,
that is.
it's
It's
in the
above it.
it's the,
You can
next
tape
to,
it.
it's close to the auditorium.
It's like a theater.
It's like a theory, it's,
that's
well,
called
they call it
step rooms.
step
It
room
goes
because
up.
they're
stadium seating.
stadium seating, thank you. Sue will help us with
And
that.
they do have like a overhead projector if they wanna do things already built in.
Let me ask you guys this. We said a Saturday with the selectmen, because they asked. Is that something we would like to inquire of the school board, if they would want to do the same thing with us?
Yes.
I'll ask.
Okay, thank you, Sue.
The other thing that I would say is I think we can kind of almost pin down the date now because,
Let's do that.
you know, I know that the pumpkin regatta weekend
It's not good.
is not a good one. No, I'm just saying, it's done in October typically. And I don't have my notes as to when, I think that was like the 15th or
I didn't bring my stuff from
16th
last
is
year.
pumpkin.
The 15th is pumpkin
15th, so
regatta.
that would be the 22nd would be the date.
Okay.
Because if you recall, last year it was like the 26th or something, it was late
23rd.
October.
It wasn't bad, you guys, and then we started.
That was the town.
Yes, that's correct. We started then on the first week in November, then we skipped Veterans Day, did that Thursday, Wednesday, Thursday, then we got the next week off. We had 3 days for the town, 3 days for the school. When could we get the school? I think it was like November
October 22nd, I think.
12th, because you guys like to go a little later.
Planning on October.
Planning is a good thing, right?
It is.
Ivan?
Let's work it through. I mean,
That's it.
What are you looking for, November 12th?
November 12th?
what did
School.
we do last year
The 13th.
on the school? It was November 13th?
Yeah.
So that should be doable.
Well, Veterans
And if we
Day
say
is
Well,
that's what
it's,
we're-
it's a long weekend for people because there's no school on the 11th.
That's what I was thinking, Veterans
Oh,
Day.
then that's not a good day.
No.
It's not a good day.
It was a red flag.
So do it the week after.
Thanksgiving is the
No.
24th, right?
I should do the week after
Yes.
what's the
Thanksgiving
19th?
is the 24th,
19th.
the week
Yeah, well, I'm
November.
saying is we would get, if we got a presentation on the 19th, we wouldn't sit down for additional queries now until November 29th on the school. That's
But if you're tackling the town side, which is usually first anyway, then.
because you guys get the budget,
Because we do it,
because it
Earlier.
starts more earlier, because it's, the forecasting is 6 months earlier.
it's easier.
Yeah.
There's
What do you guys,
ahead of us
Right,
anyway.
it's easier.
obviously, the 12th is not good because of the 3-day weekend. Yeah, that's not good. Now, it would be, do we want to ask them if they could come a week earlier, or is the 19th good?
19th is
So
fine.
are you talking about doing all the town deliberations before we even see the school budget?
No,
Inquiries,
presentation.
inquiries, presentations,
So you want
additional
callbacks,
questions.
all that before the school.
Okay.
I think that would be a good.
Yeah, we wouldn't go into, I would not want to go into deliberation until after all the questions have been asked of the school board.
Okay.
And then we would take up either the town or the school, whichever one you guys want to take up first. Which would be, but you know, look at this way, if we don't get the presentation till the 19th, we don't usually meet 2 days before Thanksgiving, because some people travel. The following week, depends what you want to do, we like to wrap this thing up before Christmas. And looking at the calendar, that doesn't give a lot of days for inquiring and deliberation. You would have, if we do twice a week,
October 22nd.
there would be 8 days after the school presentation.
19th,
I'd rather do it earlier. I mean, talk about being hard on families. Two
Yes,
budget committee meetings a week right before Christmas is
yes.
tough.
That's why I would rather have it on November 5th, to give us a little extra time to ask those questions.
I'll ask.
Okay, John?
I was gonna say, or I mean, you know, how many people will come from the school if we had it on the 12th, you know?
Well,
Because the private
that
sector
point-
isn't gonna have it off, so, you know, it's just the school.
Veterans Day?
no,
Yes,
no, it's
Veterans
Veterans Day
Veterans
weekend.
Day.
Private sector has that off.
Yeah.
It's Veterans Day. It's one of the few,
Really?
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
All the private people I worked for didn't.
that's why I'm probably not in your particular circle at the moment.
Must
'cause
be, okay.
We're camping, baby. No, it's November. No, that's gone.
Why don't, I mean, is it horrible to try with, I mean, shoot for October 22nd for the town, November 5th for the
Five
school?
For the school.
Yeah.
That's not
That's-
horrible to try to shoot for.
Right, because
think
I agree
if
with
we know
Elizabeth. I
now,
think if
got-
we can try to get
we
this
have
thing
time.
done in early December,
That would be good.
who doesn't want that?
October 22nd, town?
Yep, 10/22. Oh, that's the clerk's conference week too. Boy, that's gonna be busy.
What's more important?
Budget committee,
There you go.
except my day job. That's where I get paid.
And then the 5th for the school?
Yeah.
11/5, 10/22 and 11/5. Let's work that out. We gotta try to make that happen.
Yeah,
And we're giving enough notice right now to,
yeah.
Yeah.
make things work.
Yeah.
5 months
So
now.
we'll
before
back,
election
we'll
day.
back through it, and it might, is it, in fact, I think it was Checker, you asked if we could schedule stuff, right? So it's working out, look.
Can I just ask a question? So
Yeah,
then
Lisa.
after the 5th is when we start to meet twice a week, or am I?
We're gonna actually do it before the 5th. It
Okay.
would start after the 22nd.
Okay, so in between the 22nd and the 5th is when we meet twice a
Well,
week?
we'll
In
continue
between
on.
the 22nd and when we get it done.
Okay.
Maybe it was Lisa who asked about the
Yeah, it
schedule
was
too.
me.
Okay. So we have met like Tuesday, Thursdays.
Okay.
At this point in time, does that seem reasonable to you guys
But did we
for
meet Tuesday?
planning?
Did you, well, I say we, because I'm already in the group, but was it Tuesday, Thursday? Because one of the days was your meeting date.
No, that's true, it was our meeting day.
So it could be
By
Wednesday, right.
then, we may change it from the second Wednesday, because it's every week anyway, that we would just create one of these and say, this is our normal monthly, which we haven't really done a normal monthly. The only thing different we did was we put in the agenda public comment. That's
Right.
about the only thing that we did differently.
Exactly. I'm just,
Because we're just so darn busy,
Yeah, I
and that
think-
takes care of the Wednesday New Boston SAU kind of problem. So,
except screws up my schedule.
Right, I think
It's
we
like a
have,
Wednesday, so-
I'm not saying it has to happen for this meeting, but I think we need to iron out what that's gonna be. I mean, there are some people, like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm taking a course, so I gotta figure out what nights, and I know
Is
some
your
other, I
course-
know you
is your-
take classes, other people, so.
if your course is Tuesday, Thursday, I think it's
Yeah.
totally okay with us.
Nice.
That's
No,
fine.
no, for
I'll abstain on all my
you to
votes.
find a different day.
Yeah.
No, is that a problem? Or do we not know yet?
I'm not really digging Tuesdays too much, but
Okay, it could be Wednesday, Thursday, I mean, you
I
guys,
just need it decide, like.
I just need to
I
know,
can arrange,
right.
I just need to know.
people pipe up.
I'll throw out that it's nice to have a day in between from this last year, because
Yeah, it is.
we might go, we might go to 11 o'clock, you need a day off.
Yeah, I like Tuesdays and Thursdays, like
Or,
last year.
or Thursday, or Wednesday, Friday, but I like
Oh,
Tuesday.
hey, hey, now you're talking crazy.
Friday, Saturday. No, it's nice to have a day off.
if you're efficient, you only need one day a week.
Hey, who knows, I mean, there's a couple of motions that could be made, and we can have it done in one day, but not
And that's-
unprecedented.
There's nothing that stops us from coming here on a Saturday if we have to.
That is correct. Unless there's somebody else has gotten a room. And with advance notice, we can get heat.
If there's enough money.
Right, the end of the year. So what are you guys thinking for planning purposes?
Fine, go Tuesday, Thursday.
Are your Tuesday, Thursday? Silence kinda means Tuesday, Thursday. There we go. So right now, let's plan Tuesday, Thursday. And that would start on 10/25, Tuesday. And so the 15th of November would be considered our monthly meeting. And the 20th of December would be considered our monthly meeting.
10:25.
Unless, of course, we can finish on the 15th. And then we wouldn't have to
Then
come
the
back on Tuesday.
27th.
We don't meet the 27th.
Oh, no, but the 25th.
We won't meet on the 25th.
Oh, whoops.
Are you in December or October?
I'm in October.
Okay, I'm in December, because I was talking okay, yes, 25, 27 of October. November is 1/3. Now, 8. I'm thinking of skipping 10 if the following day is a holiday. You guys tell me.
No, but I think 8 should be skipped.
What's 8?
Election. Somebody will be running something.
No, it's no
Not in
election in
Goffstown.
November.
Not in Goffstown.
No, there isn't?
Not in
No.
Goffstown.
All right.
Because it's cities, unless, but, I mean, I've got a Manchester mailing address, does that mean I can vote in Manchester? So,
You can by law.
I don't
You
think so.
cannot.
She can.
I don't think so. I will
Oh.
talk to you about that after. Now you're talking my day
You can
job,
as long as you don't
okay?
get caught.
That's right.
It doesn't, no.
Okay, so you're rattling off these days, so what was it, 11 what?
Show you the RSA that I
Eight
just
and
learned.
10, is that it?
138.
10?
Yeah, the question is up for grabs on the 10th. The 11th, I've been told, is the long weekend, November 11th, is a Friday, so they're taking the holiday on that Friday. The 10th is the night before the holiday.
I'd say do it.
I say work.
I say we still work it, because that'll save us time on the back end there.
Absolutely, totally agree. Okay, 8, 10. Then we work 15
yellows.
and 17. We take the next week off, which is Thanksgiving week. Then we have November 29th, December 1st, December 6th and 8th.
And we're done then. That's it.
That's it.
Come on.
Which is great.
Self-imposed deadline.
Yeah.
Let's go to December 8th, and if we don't get it done, then we do 13, 15,
No,
20, and
self-imposed
22.
deadline, 12/8.
I'm good with that.
Yeah.
What I'm thinking is, let's plan, if we're gonna do the plan, what was the day? October 22 is the town's presentation. Town inquiries will be the 25th, the 27th, November 1, and November 3. We have 4 days to ask all of our questions for the town, okay? Get everything out on the table. I mean, as we get closer, if you want to particularly say, on this night, we're doing these, we can probably do that too, as we get closer to schedule them out, so you'll be able to just concentrate on who's gonna be coming up, and then the department heads, if they wanted to be there, would be here. John?
Will the 14th be our regular scheduled meeting, and that will be that meeting where you won't let us leave until everything is done? Or will that be on the 8th?
Give me a day, a month.
December.
December, no. We suspend the Wednesday meetings in November and December and change those to one of the Tuesdays, the third Tuesday. So, and call that our regular meeting.
So the
We may
15th.
suspend the regular meeting, open it up for public comment because it's a regular meeting, or we might choose to continue our budget deliberations because that's the heavy time. I don't think you guys wanna meet Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday on the week.
Well, I remember last year you wouldn't let us leave until we were done. Is that gonna be the 15th, just so I can?
That would be, well, we heard the 8th, but we'll find out as we go. No, for me, the drop dead date is December 22. We don't leave on the 22nd. If we don't get it done by the 22nd, we stay here on the 22nd. We're aiming for the December 8th.
Well, I just soon schedule the 15th, now.
Go ahead, schedule the 13th and the 15th.
Rock and roll.
All right.
Said rock and roll. When you actually put that in the calendar, it's awful scary.
Yeah,
Let you know.
yeah.
That's why they pay us the big bucks.
Absolutely.
And because of the way, 91A says, if we get it done on the 8th, we can make an agreement as a group whether or not we just want to meet on the December 14th as a regular meeting. Or postpone our regular meeting so that, it's gonna be busy. It's what it is. So we have 4 meetings between the town's presentation on the 22nd, then the school on the 5th, which then gives us the 8th, the 10th. We have 4 meetings in November that we can ask all the questions for the school. Then we have the vacation for Thanksgiving, then we come back for deliberation, which would give us 4 meetings
For the school.
in December to actually do budget deliberations to get it done by the 8th. So
If we
4,
have-
4, and 4.
If we have the town finished.
Yes. If we have the town finished in 2 days, and if not, then we have the fallback of the 13th, the 15th, the 20th, and the 22nd. Although that's not what Scott's preference is.
No, we have 4 days, we have 4 meetings, well, I suppose. We have 4 meetings after the presentation, but you're saying 2 of those days would be callbacks if we wanted them.
I'm thinking all 4 days could be callbacks.
Oh, okay. Then one of the school.
For the school themselves, because, you have things like you can, one meeting could be Mountain View, one meeting could be the high school, one meeting as an overall general about those things. You have the 2 middle schools, and then you have the SAU, well, the SAU, not a whole lot we can do with that.
And they would be all 7 o'clock.
That's up to you guys. Last year, we started at 6:30 many times, just so that we can get out.
That's true.
So let's talk about that. The regular meetings, we start at 7. Do you want to start these meetings, when we start budget deliberations way down in October, November, starting a half hour early at 6:30, Scott?
I don't want to open up a can of worms, but I'm going to. You did all
He's got
that.
to.
You did all this last year and the year before that, and then we came up with a level-funded budget.
Yep.
And I want to go back, I think maybe you raised that question. If I would have known that we had a level-funded budget, or that was the goal, or that was what we came up with,
Yep.
we could cross off about
Most
8
of them.
meetings here.
Oh, yes. Totally agree.
And, again, I'll open up the can of worms on this.
Well, if we can you hold the can
Yeah.
of worms until we can get the 6:30 thing done? Because that
6:30.
was part of the
Okay.
next coming up can of
Okay.
worms thing. Bill?
To me, 6:30 is as much as I would like to get the extra half hour in earlier. From the family side of things, 7 o'clock
Hard for
works
you to
better
get
for
here.
me.
Okay,
7's better. We can at least have dinner with our families.
dinner? Okay.
See, I don't care about eating, seeing.
That sounds Spanish, like tacos. I can handle that.
I agree with that.
Jen?
Can we agree, if we do start at 7, we chose 6:30 last time, I believe, and we capped it at a certain time
Yes.
as well, just to.
We did
kind
2
of
hours. We said,
So I'm okay with the 7 as long as it
No, we did
doesn't
3
end at
hours,
11,
9:20.
you know, or something, so, because on the flip side, you know,
Do you
that's the
want-
flip side of the
Okay.
starting earlier, you know.
so if we start at 7 PM, you want to finish at the discretion of the chair between 9:20 and 9:30?
Good idea.
Yes.
Like that.
And then we just have to make sure that if a topic comes up and we've already heard something 3 or 4 times, we don't have to do the 5th and 6th, or maybe if we heard it once, we can kind of stop.
No, I still prefer the 6:30, but, I don't know if they want to.
But we're having a hard, I'll tell you what, in a chain of events that goes on, if you say, do I have to go to the budget committee, or do I want to have dinner with my family? That's an easy one for me. And it's the dinner part, okay? Not because there's just food there, because that's important, but family time is important. Without the support we get,
I mean, once in a while is okay, but if we're talking every Tuesday and Thursday night,
would be
that's
every one,
really
so.
gonna be grinding.
okay, then,
And you end up staying
We
later
did it
anyway.
last year. What I did is I just moved my supper up.
Yeah, but for those
Some
of us
of
with
us-
young children, it's a little.
yeah, it's harder with the young children. Phil?
Have young families.
I guess I have a hard time capping it at 2.5 hours out. And I understand want to get out of here early as well. I guess I just have if there's a flexibility of it going longer, or, I mean, again, we want to get it done by the 8th.
Yep.
So, adding an extra half hour onto that for those other ones, 3 hours, 7 to 10 for 3 hours.
Split the difference, 6:45.
See, if people in their minds like get home by 10,
Damn it.
it's something that
Yes, you can.
it
unwind.
mentally works.
Exactly, then go to work.
And there's something, it's just,
I understand. That's
I
fine.
understand.
Just bringing it up. I mean, just trying to.
right. Well, tell you what, give me the option or permission to be more aggressive on our conversations. And what I can say is, I think I've heard that 4 times. I mean, and I could do that.
Yes.
We've always had the capability of allowing people to speak, because it's important sometimes, because if you listen really intently, sometimes you hear just 3 words in an hour that does a whole tremendous thing to straighten something. We can, don't forget, these rules can be modified. We get to 9:20, we're on a hot topic. 9 out of 13 of you say, I want to stay another 15 minutes, we'll stay another 15 minutes. But if we're just planning for that 9:20 to 9:30, maybe it would help us be more concise.
9:30, and then go from there.
Okay.
Not 9:20.
10-minute
just
warning.
9:30. Boom. No wishy-washy. You're a black and white kind of guys. You deal with numbers and stuff. You don't have this 20-plus.
That's the only fun I get in the whole budget thing, is to, 9:20 to 9:30, keep you at suspense for 10 minutes. Anybody else? Unless I'm not there, then. All right.
How about the 6:30, 6:45 instead of,
Mentally, I don't think we'll start until 7. But let's bring it out. Bill thinks 6:45. How's that do, guys?
I'd rather stick it at 7.
Okay. I personally like 6:30, but we'll do 7. My vote would be 6:30, but we'll.
Mine would be
Did you
too.
go around?
No, I
In
think.
fairness, do you go around to see what people?
We do. I think I
majority
heard.
is?
7. I'm saying 6:30. You say.
6.
Not a choice, dude.
4. Then I
Okay.
can go to bed at a reasonable hour.
Here's 6:30.
6:30.
Dick.
6:30.
7.
7.
6:30.
I'm retired. I don't care.
6:30.
7.
No, not yet. Lisa.
7.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
6:30. 6:30.
7.
John. 7. All right, went 6-5. So it's really split. You know what we can do if you wanted to. And I'm
Is
going to throw it
one
out
night can
again.
be 6:30.
Which is your better night for 7? Tuesdays or
That's
Thursdays?
too confusing.
Yeah, that is.
Just
No, it
pick
isn't.
one time.
Yeah.
and just
Actually,
stick
it
with
isn't. It isn't too confusing. But anyway,
Nah, somebody will show up late. Can't fight me.
if we don't have a quorum at 6:30, and believe me, there's many times where we had set it for 6:30 to 9:20, we were meeting up at the middle school. We'd be sitting there until 10 of 7, 5 of 7, because we didn't even have a quorum.
Yep.
All right.
And so I'm going to say, let's go 7 to 9:20, and if it seems that we want to change it as we get closer, so for planning purposes, let's just do 7 to 9:20, 9:30, 7 to 9:30.
And our Saturdays will be approximately 9 start? Do you wanna
Yeah, what do you
shoot
want for a
that?
start date, Scott? Start time.
That's what we did
on-
last year.
It started off a little earlier, and then it migrated up a little to like 9 AM.
What do you want it to be?
9.
9 o'clock?
You good at 9?
9?
I see a lot of head shakings, 9 AM.
Okay.
And we'll plan for the whole day.
In the school also?
Yeah, Sue, 9 AM? Okay.
Eight.
Did I hear 8?
You did not.
Just kidding.
Breakfast at Sawyer's at 8. Meeting
Ooh, I
starts
like
at
that.
9.
That's a good idea.
You treating?
With the
Except we
We
can't
got a
all
budget.
go, or we'll end up with a
Expanded
quorum
budget.
at Sawyer's.
Now, if it's not planned, or even if it is planned, what the Attorney General has said is social gatherings intended for social gatherings are social gatherings. Just
So my-
don't
so
start
my-
talking
So my,
budget
bo-
stuff.
so my
Motions.
bowling idea is
It's
viable.
totally viable, yes.
No.
No motion.
They actually had to put that in
Me
writing.
too, I like the bowling idea.
Social gathering,
If
intended
I-
for social gatherings, intended for social
I,
gatherings.
The drinking.
what's the word? I didn't, it wasn't verbatim. It was,
Steam may burn.
it was one of those things where it was like, you can't stop people in a town who are friends to meet, and it wasn't necessarily with a budget committee of 16 members. They were talking about the selectmen having 5 members, where 3 of them were at the pumpkin regatta, and now we have a public meeting. So they're saying, no, it's a planned activity, it's not a public meeting. Just don't make decisions. You can't make decisions in planning and stuff, so. Further old business surrounding budget, we got the schedule kind of done. We've got the idea of what we're gonna do for those days, and we'll make ad hoc decisions as we go. So if we have no further questions for the town budget before the school presentation, we'll have days off. I'm hoping we have a lot of questions, so it's gonna be necessary. For the receiving of the budget, we would like that at least a week in advance, if not a week and a half would be
Now you're pushing.
very appropriate.
Pushing it.
Can we talk about Scott's worms? Scott had worms
Yeah.
that he wanted to talk about.
You open the.
Oh,
can.
yeah, okay, you're right, I forgot about that. Let's talk about the worms.
All right. Well,
Because I was actually, I was gonna wait till May and June, because we're gonna be closer to talk about it. Let's broach the subject tonight.
okay. Here we are, we've scheduled 15, 20 meetings, and we're gonna have presentations and callbacks and all this other stuff. And then at the end of the day, since the last few years, it's gonna be this number or this percentage, et cetera, and it kind of defeats the purpose to an extent. Now, last year, we went through the exercise of what would 10% look like. And at the end of the day, it turned out to be, level. And I could be wrong, and maybe I am, but I think that this number of this budget is gonna be somewhere of level funded to a very nominal increase, 2.5% if possible, or maybe it's 2.5% decrease or something. But I don't think it's 10% cut, I don't think it's a 5% cut, and I don't think it's a 4% increase. I think it's somewhere in that very narrow band, and that's where these budgets should need to fall in. And let's talk about that, because we can spend 20 weeks talking about why the school needs something, or why we need to replace a dump truck, or this, whatever it is. But at the end of the day, we came up with level funded. This is what we think that the community can afford, and all the other stuff was just almost noise. I don't know. I found it incredibly tedious and just not very worthwhile.
Are you gonna make that in the form of a motion to level fund?
No, but I think if you narrow the band, Ivan, okay?
I hear you.
I mean, so that there's a parameter, a range where you expect, now, some of us, that's how I operate at work. Where you have and then if you can really prove your case why it needs to be an increase, great, but other than that, it's gonna be the lower number or whatever. I guess I'm more okay with that, but I just don't think it's as draconian as a 10% cut, but then again, I don't think it's a 5% increase. I just don't, unless you can totally show it. But we're still coming out of this thing, and I think that number is somewhere between level funded, I'm just giving my personal opinion, to 2.5%, and.
Okay, heard that already. I'm just practicing.
Yep.
That would be a good motion.
Ivan,
Well put.
did you want to respond, or do you have some ideas on yourself? I mean, where you're looking? Is it now to broach the subject? Be prepared to talk more about it in May and come up with a final, this is what we want to do in June? If you're not ready, Philip had his hand up.
What I've heard you say is that it's the function of the budget committee to set the level of available funding, which sounds like, so it seems to me that would be a relevant thing for us to do.
That's my opinion, and I'm one of 16.
Well, I would concur with that and agree that,
Okay, 2 out of 16. Phil?
I think, I mean, I agree with Scott's intentions, and I think I agree with, we need to be very clear when we ask the governing bodies, when they give us our budgets, what we're looking for, and not be wishy-washy, whether we want it to be level funded or a range, or something like Scott's saying. I don't necessarily agree with the number he's saying, but I also don't think tonight is the night. I mean, this is only the second night of us meeting as a committee of a lot of new members, and we've yet to look at a budget on those meetings that we've met so far. So to say that 6 months from now, we want budgets coming in at 2% less or 2.5% increase or level funded, I think we're too early to do that. I do think we need to get there, and I think we need to get there, like you're saying, Dan, or mentioned, in June, so that when they start developing their budgets, they have that in hand. But we should start thinking about it.
That's a good discussion. You guys, more comments? Mr. Burke?
I agree with Scott. There was just a lot of noise last year. And the end result was the end result. I would throw a number out, but I don't know if you guys want that. I think it wouldn't hurt anything if just the intentions were thrown out there, and then we'd all know where we're all sitting and standing, and then we meet next month, and by hopefully June, we have a number to throw at them.
That's a good plan.
But I agree with Scott that I don't want to go down that path of just hearing us talk all those meetings, and then at the end have the result.
Okay, that's only twice, so
Okay.
I'm still practicing here. One of the
You cut us both off.
One of the items that we have to remember is that although it's our budget that goes to the deliberative session, we can request the governing boards what we would like. They can do whatever they want, because it's then our job to put the budget forward, okay? It makes a lot of sense if we could give them direction to saying, you know, that's our current, where we're coming down a pipe, and it doesn't matter what you give us, we're gonna have to do some work to try to do what we think. So it's a planning tool, from my perspective. Elizabeth?
So are we talking about making a requirement or giving guidance?
We do not have the authority of a requirement, so it would have to fall under the guidance.
Okay.
Our authority lies in the number we put forth to deliberative session.
Okay.
Bill?
We're one town, we're all working together,
That'd be nice.
just keep that in mind.
It'd be nice.
That's the intentions.
And there's that natural friction that occurs.
Well, there doesn't have to be. I mean, there's difference of opinions, always. That's what makes us a great society that we are. But we are one town, we all live here, we all need to work and live and travel in town and see each other, so.
Through the roundabout.
Thank you for using the right term, yes, which worked well.
Can't wait for the paving on the new one. That's coming, isn't it, Scott? I'm segueing too early. That's coming at a later date. It's in the agenda. Anything further on the budget or budget discussions? All right. Any other further old business before I check that off? Fantastic.
Oh, I have one. It is under old business. Okay. There was a discussion about, health insurance.
Yeah.
And I did want to let everyone here know that, the Board of Selectmen took a vote, and that any elected official, of the town, just like the school board has, who wants to, use the
Avail
health care
themselves.
on their own, can purchase the health care. They have to pay the full freight, but they can do that. And we're working out on a policy, but if that's something that you're interested in, contact Sue DeRusso. She will take your name and work with you on that. But we took that vote 2 weeks ago.
Am I presuming that's for the elected members or for the appointed members as well?
Elected member.
Elected.
You have to be an elected official.
But, let's say, Dick is a commissioner, right? And Bill is a commissioner, so they
Elected
would
official
elected
of the town.
of the town,
They are
not
not,
the.
they would not. right.
Not the, village district, because they wouldn't buy the whole town.
Sorry, Bill.
You were paying attention. Just
Do
kidding.
I have one?
All right.
I do not have a
Right.
price, but that's why you would talk to Sue, and she will give you the various prices.
Yeah, and with the coverage, and you can't, it's not a melting pot, this is what they do, this is what you
You
have.
will have it, there is a menu of different plans that you can take. There are also, if you just want dental, you can do that as well. So, All
Dental
right.
too?
yeah,
Really?
yeah.
I got that circled.
Does it have psychiatric?
Haven't found the dentist that could
Under,
fix-
that's under the group medical.
All right. Further old business?
Going once,
Excuse?
going once.
Oh, yeah, I went once, twice, this is 3 times. Town reports. Do you have some general stuff you want to talk about, Scott?
Not really.
Okay, then let me get to Jen Getchell in the police department. This is now newbies, if I can use that term. Okay. Never mind, just go ahead, Jen.
Okay.
Give us your report on the
I'm
police.
scared a little bit. Okay. I met with Chief Sullivan on March 31st on a Thursday afternoon. We spent about 2 hours together, just kind of a meet and greet, kind of figure out how last year went, opinions on how the process went. Got a tour of the station, didn't really get into any deep conversations, but I think the most important thing, and I think it's been echoed a little bit, is communication is absolutely key, and I think in our conversation, in some areas we were really good about that, in some areas we weren't. So my objective in working with the chief is to, whatever questions any members may have, any concerns, any deeper knowledge you want to have, let me know. And he and I will be in constant communication about that. And he also extended the offer for ride-alongs. If anyone should care to do that, they can fill out a form and take advantage of that. Does anyone have any questions?
How are they doing with their budget?
I'm sorry, say it again?
How are they doing with their budget? I mean,
Well-
it's only April, but there's a forecasted, one of the things that we always look at are the duty pay, because that was voted down, right? That separate fund. So is he projected out for the year? He doesn't know because we don't know about presidential primaries, but
Exactly, right, so.
Is he
yeah,
afraid of
We
that?
talked about that as an area to keep an eye on, but we didn't get any deeper than that. So we did talk about that as being an issue, and also kind of things happening at the state level, and how those will affect a lot of our administrative offices, so.
such as,
I'm not learned enough to speak, I don't wanna,
Okay.
speak out of turn, but
Okay.
there were some concerns coming down the pike that would affect, and maybe Scott, you could talk about
About
that a little bit.
retirement and everything?
Mhm.
Well, I think it's
Oh, the
safe to say that
retirement
if there are changes to the retirement system, there may be staff that is in the police department where it may be advantageous for them to retire versus to continue on. So that's an impact.
additional cost?
And that's not just in New Hampshire. I mean, in Goffstown, that's everywhere. And the more pressing issue is that if all of a sudden you were to have 10, 15, 20% of your police or fire retire, because it's a 20-year requirement, there are not enough open slots in the academy to get new officers in. So that's an issue that's out there. And also, you could potentially create an experience void, because your senior leadership or those officers who may have 20 years of experience, if they do decide to partake in retirement, to take advantage of the more favorable retirement benefits available to them now, or under the old system, you might have that void because those people may, retire en masse. So that's an issue.
Is that Senate Bill, SB 3?
Yeah, I don't know the
Moving
number.
through?
Yeah.
And I think it's already started.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
I know a
going
couple
through.
police chiefs
Yeah.
that have retired recently because of it.
Yeah, that changes.
Well, I say because.
There's a lot of changes in there that
Right.
gives the town a little more bargaining power.
A little.
The town more bargaining power? As for budgets and stuff, or?
Well, I meant town, no, the state.
Okay, that gives me better. Further questions for Jen on police?
The employer.
Yes. Okay. Got it. All right, let's segue down to Parks and, Steve's not here. Let's go to administration. Steve, Phil.
Sorry, I am paying attention. Well, I met with Don, and he's just trying to figure out everything. Being 2 weeks in, but, overall, things are going all right. He, we looked at what's gonna be coming up, and there's the HVAC that's gonna get replaced, Scott? Okay. But it's got it's $50,000, it's in the budget.
It's already done, yeah. I mean, that's
It's already in the budget, but I
Right.
mean, just talking about future things, they're gonna big ticket items, but that's a 50-50 split with the Mildred Stark Fund. So we're gonna get 25,000 back from the Mildred Stark. So there'll be a 50,000 expenditure with a 25,000 revenue, essentially. Not sure when that's gonna happen. The other thing to note was to watch, House Bill 457. I don't know if anybody around the room can give a little more light on that, but if that passed, that House bill was talking about changing the fees on penalties for overdue taxes and then on liens, essentially reducing them in half. Taking the late fees on overdue taxes from a 12% penalty to a 6% penalty, and taking lien fee penalties from the 18% to 9%, which, I mean, that's a big chunk of revenue. Our revenue, we have budgeted $180,000 of revenue from these fees, which could drop down to 90,000 if this bill passed. But it was slated for, how would you say that?
inexpedient to legislate
Thank you.
in the Senate.
In the Senate today.
It went ITL in the Senate?
But I don't know if it actually made it.
Well, or did it go in committee, ITL in committee?
Well, it was
Probably
slated,
committee.
it was slated for
Gino?
today.
John knows.
What do you got, John?
It came out of municipal, and.
On the House?
Came out of the
Yeah,
House.
it came out of
no.
the House, out of the municipal county and
Yeah.
government that I sit on, 15-1, to kill it.
Oh, to kill it.
It was brought on the House floor, and it is extremely rare, but it was overturned overwhelmingly. So it did go to the Senate without to pass.
Oh, okay.
From what I understand, Senate heard it yesterday, I believe. And
The committee?
yes, and I understand they killed it.
Okay.
So
The ITL, but I don't know if it was, the whole thing was officially killed.
So there's no perceived impact at the moment for the town funds?
I don't
Unless
know-
there's some
I-
other
I-
bill that they try to bring it on?
Right, but I
Okay.
also don't know the final status of this bill.
Yeah, okay.
It was being final votes on it today, but if it did pass, it could have impacts to this town as well as every other town in the state. Not to mention, the untold from, this is my own opinion, truly, is if you do that, you're gonna get more people who are gonna be delinquent on the taxes because it's only 6%, It's less of a penalty.
You said it's HB 474?
yeah.
Yeah.
If I can add to that,
Yes.
virtually, the Senate will stick together. They're a different breed of animals. So for it to come out of ITL is probably zero chance.
I would agree with that, but I just,
Yeah,
it just-
where the House is a lot different, because I've overturned another bill on the House floor.
This may not be 474.
no, 454.
457.
457, that makes sense, because this was
Yeah,
in a labor.
457.
But I know they did meet today.
I have it up on my screen right here, Dan,
Okay,
so.
yeah, Senate went ITL,
Yeah.
so it's gone.
Is that official?
Yeah, according to this, it's done.
Okay.
It wasn't the committee, it was the entire Senate floor. I
No.
don't have the vote. From this, it was the
Must have come out
Senate
of the Senate
status.
committee, ITL.
Yeah, now I do believe it has to come back to the House, correct?
I do not know.
I
But why,
almost think it can.
for them to do what? Modify?
Yeah, to modify it and I remember that it came out of the House, pretty overwhelmingly. So what will happen there, I do not know. I mean, they could add it to somewhere
Well,
as an amendment, but I don't see that one being added.
Right, okay.
So I think it's a dead deal.
Just something to keep an eye on, I guess.
Now, keep our eyes on it, that could be $90,000.
Exactly.
Okay,
That's all I have.
further?
No.
Questions for Phil for administration? That's the offices in this building, primarily. John, library.
Library, had a good conversation with Library Director Diane Hathaway today. And I'll be attending Board of Trustees meeting next week, and we'll get a tour from her at that time. I'm familiar with the library already, but looking forward to that.
Sign you up for a new library card?
I've got one, and it's working.
Okay, good.
She did say that they're early in their budget. First quarter for them is typically lighter and more conservative, so they're getting into there's more spending to be coming, so not a lot to report on at this point. Although one thing, you guys may have seen this in the papers, the shared online catalog that the library participates in, GMilks, they had a change in the vendor and the server provider for that, and I think it was a little unexpected. So they are, that is somewhat of a curveball for them, it sounds like. It sounds like the new vendor is going to be a little more expensive, and that the membership fees might be going up a little bit on that, at least a little bit. So that might be something to keep an eye on. One other thing that might affect them also is Manchester's West Side branch might be closing. I think there's a proposal to close it in the mayor's budget, and if it does, they would be probably pulling out of the same GMilks, and therefore the remaining members may
Have to absorb the cost.
absorb the cost. So another thing maybe to keep an eye on, but other than that, nothing else.
Okay. Questions for John in the library? Cool. They've been having like library runs and different things that go on for fundraisers and different things, or I'm not sure if it was a fundraiser, but they have any of those programs on like right now? You know?
They have a book sale coming up, the typical usual book sale, I guess, and it's probably May or so, but
Old Home Day.
there's another.
Now, do we know if the Manchester West Side, do we have room for more books? Let me see, if they close that, do all the books go back to the main branch, or they share them?
There's no room.
There's no room. Busting at the seams.
That's why there's a book sale. The library discards some of their things that are in their collection to make room for more. Yeah.
Makes sense.
But the West Side Library's not
Okay,
big.
Public Works, Guy.
Public Works, while Jen was sitting with Sullivan on March 31, I was with Carl at about the same time for about the same amount of time. First quarter just ended. DPW is tracking just a little below. They're at 23.5% expended. Solid waste portion of that is 19, and the Public Works operations portion is just under 25. Carl and I discussed a number of things, not the least of which were the CIP items that are coming up, the budget process from last year. He and I are going to be making extra effort this year to make sure that the committee, this budget committee, is not blindsided by anything or surprised by anything, and is kept abreast of any irregularities or any surprises that DPW may be hit with, so that, you know, equipment breakdowns, whatever the case might be, resurfacing problems or extra expenditures. Out of curiosity, by the way, I had asked him about the April, in fact, we met, that was the day before the April 1 snowstorm, and I was curious as to what that storm, which nobody expected, was gonna cost us. It was $28,000. Similar, what was interesting is that, I don't know if Carl is familiar with somebody in Massachusetts who was also a DPW director, I'm sure some of you are aware of it. They did a cost analysis on what that same storm cost them using contractors, as opposed to having their own department do it, and that was $100,000. So the way that we're operating is pretty good over at DPW by doing this ourselves. The cost of that storm was 28 here, was 100 down there.
Same town, same miles?
Roughly the same size.
Massachusetts.
So I gotta
New
look at
Hampshire.
John, and I'm gonna say, you know what's going through right now about closing
They
down
have very
the
expensive
state
tolls down there.
plow trucks. Okay. Let me, since I was there, I was gonna ask you about the storm, but we've had 3 months of snow weather they get through, and at the end of the year, it's not normally 3 months. So to be at just shy of 25% in public works operations, is that looking good for us, or is there something that's gonna be a little heavier to take?
That's actually looking good, because the way that snow operations traditionally or historically falls out, we don't have a big expenditure until after December. And we're pretty much in line with our budget at this point. Pardon me?
I said, not this year.
Not this, well, no, I mean, I'm not saying
That's
every
last
year.
budget.
I mean, 3 years ago, we had 44 inches in
Yeah,
December.
right.
But traditionally, and considering all the snow we had this year, we're still in line with what we budgeted, pretty much. So it worked out pretty well.
Okay, I'm looking at the salt line, and the salt line is budgeted at 189,493, and our expenditures are, oh no, I gotta go way up to the top to get the titles, I forgot to freeze them.
I'm doing the same thing.
Expenditures, 80-something.
Mhm.
So it's, we would expect we'll probably buy some salt before the end of the year.
The other issue, which is gonna be across a lot of our departments, is oil and gasoline. The selectmen locked in at a fixed price. Again, we were caught between a rock and a hard place. We could either go variable and go market or lock in. We decided to lock in. We figured that it would be about $100,000, over $100,000 of additional cost based upon what we budgeted for, based on what we locked in. And what we did is we locked in at 75% of what's needed. So there's 25% that's gonna be variable, 75% that's gonna be locked in, so we tried to hedge it a bit.
Yeah. Okay.
But, you know, that's like,
And what was the lock-in price versus? I mean, is it-
I don't have that number, but it, like I said,
We're ahead, though. I mean, by having locked out.
Yeah,
I
we're-
remember, I mean, I can't remember the number either.
we're ahead of the game right now, but if price drops, then we might not be. I mean, it's just one of these things where you gotta make a decision, and we took the shot. I mean, we hedged 75% on locking in, 25% on being variable, and see what happens.
Last year or the year before, there was an attempt that we made, and the vendor agreed that if the price went down so far, we would pay a certain amount over that price. That's not
No, that's
in the
not,
cards
that's not in
right
the
now.
cards, no.
Okay.
Nope.
Further questions for Guy in Public Works?
If I could just kind of throw a couple of more things in.
Absolutely.
You will see, if you drive by West Lawn Cemetery, that DPW is beginning the expansion of West Lawn Cemetery to the old cemetery field. That is gonna take place over the entire summer. It's gonna be fill-in type work. So you may see no activity for 2 or 3 weeks, but like, you know, if it's a rainy day or something, you'll see them working. They have to truck some materials over, so they're gonna try to fill that in over.
From our new land that we purchased a couple years ago?
Yeah, well, it's actually gonna be actually part of the old land, but now we can use part of that old land because we have the new land.
And that's gonna be, you know, when you can't be paving roads.
Right.
You're gonna send the guys up there.
Exactly. And now, if you recall, that was part of what we tried to do last year during the budget process. We said if DPW does it, rather than, you know, farming it out, we'll be able to, you know, hopefully do it in-house. That's what the plan is. And we have also asked Carl to try to, if he can, squeeze in the pavement of that phase one, because I can tell you flat out that, we talked about it the other night, we'll probably have another $100,000 of expenses to finish that phase two. And that phase two is the pinning of where all the plots are, and the fence. 'Cause you can't put anybody in there by law unless there's a fence surrounding the cemetery. So,
That's
want to
next
get
year.
out?
well, people are dying to get in, no, but that's the statute, so.
Thank you that I didn't have to say that.
Right, that was a Fred Plett thing, but, so that has to happen, and you'll see that in our budget this year, because they do not have any single plots left at West Lawn. There are some others at some other cemeteries, but, we're running out of space. So it's very important that we stay on track with this cemetery expansion.
On cemeteries?
Yes.
Go, please.
On the cemetery fence, a bill did come in front of my committee, and we did vote on it to eliminate the
Requirement.
requirement of fencing, so it did
So where did
pass.
it go?
It passed out of the House, it's over to the Senate, and I understand that I almost think it has passed.
If
So-
we knew the bill number, we could find out. We might not need the fence. How much was the, just the
Oh, it's a
fence?
lot.
Yeah, don't buy it.
We haven't bought it.
Yeah, it's
It'll be next
That's
year's
next year.
budget.
Yeah, no, it's, from
No
what I
one's there- no
understand,
one's
the
there
Senate
yet.
is very
Yeah.
favorable on this.
Okay.
And, you know, the governor's already, from what I
Yeah,
understood,
nobody
that the
to keep
governor
in
will
yet.
sign it.
Exactly, there's no one to keep in yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the bill date, the law dates back to the 1800s to keep
GMOs?
cows and
Animals.
sheep out of it, and we don't have any of those anymore, so.
Not grazing there,
Interesting.
or within 50 feet of Scott's
Yes,
domicile.
yeah, so that has gone through.
No, there's no grazers on your property, is what
Oh,
I'm saying.
okay.
So don't buy that
I've been
fence.
called worse, but
Oh, no, I wouldn't go there. That wouldn't have been something to come to mind. I've got other words.
that's
that-
good to know, though. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so there we go. Further questions
And I
for
voted
Public
for it.
Works?
Good job, John.
Anything else for Guy in Public Works or Scott on the town at all? There's, we didn't talk fire or Parks and Rec. Do you have anything you can share with us on those?
Yeah, I can. Parks and Rec, they're gonna, we lost Cemetery Field, so we talked to the trustees Monday night. Now we're going to try to work with DPW to level that out a little bit so that it becomes a viable practice field. Cemetery Field was used for soccer and other sports for practice, so we're gonna
Is that
try
why
to.
they're taking some land to fill in the west lawn to make it?
Yeah, we're gonna try to use some of the materials, take the crown out, yeah.
Right.
It's not gonna be a big effort, but at least it'll be somewhat usable. And the other thing is that, public hearings were held, and there are now fees for, many of the programs that Parks and Rec offers. So I know, somebody had asked me a question, regarding summer playground or summer camp. There was no fee in the past. There will be a fee. I just don't know it off the top of my head. I'm going to my first Parks and Rec meeting next.
It is
It's it is $50 a week. And then it's $20. Yeah, cheap for some, expensive for others. It was $0 before. I can tell you that Bedford, I think, is $120 a week. If you're a resident, and I think it's $150 or something if you're not. Don't quote me on those prices, but I know that it's substantially more. I believe most of the sports are $20 to $25 to participate, whether they be basketball or softball, things of that nature. But what? Lacrosse was more. Lacrosse was $50, I think.
Yeah.
So that was really the issue for Parks and Rec. And the other thing that is pretty big is when we purchased the Barnard property, Parks and Rec, we had a meeting with the department heads as to what their needs were for that property and the adjoining property. All right?
With the what, the needs?
The needs
Okay.
are, and I say that, the DPW, the transfer station, if you did not know it, it has a shooting range, a firing range for the police officers to practice. discharging their weapons, and et cetera. DPW, for the most part, aside from the excavation of the materials, that's their needs. Fire department talked about, a potential a site for a fire station at some point in time. But for the most part, we're working on a plan that we're gonna be excavating the materials, and then how do we then make that into usable park space once we do it? So we're trying to develop a short, medium, and long-term plan for that parcel, and we're gonna be creating like an ad hoc town committee to work on that, and that's gonna be one of our selectmen's goals this year. What's gonna be the outcome of that piece of property?
Which piece of property?
This is the Kilton Barnard property that the town purchased
Right,
2 years ago.
I heard Barnard Park and not the
Yeah.
Barnard
Oh, I'm sorry,
parcel.
Barnard parcel.
The parcel.
Yeah.
The parcel
Next
makes a
to
lot
the
more
transfer
sense. That's the one
station.
that attaches to, down in the, Bill's neck of
You
the
said
woods.
Barnard Park, that's why I'm like.
Yes, that's where I was.
Excavation, I'm like.
Yeah.
Yeah, the transfer station? I don't know.
So
what
it
that is.
It
abuts
abuts
the transfer station,
Out in the back
and
there.
it's like 25 acres, and,
That was approved last year.
well, not this past election, but the one
Right.
before that, and, I know some of you might have walked it, but it's I know you're
A lot of-
intimately familiar with it. It's a beautiful piece of property, and we just have to figure out how best to utilize it, get the materials off that we need, but then.
1.1 million of usable building materials, road materials, from what I remember,
Yeah.
the discussion was.
Twice the amount that we paid for it,
Yeah,
minimum.
yeah.
So, that'll be a goal
Something on
this year.
parks?
No, but if I could just add 2 things.
Okay.
Well, yeah, one is
Okay.
is the shooting range he mentioned.
Okay.
Boy, I'd love to see a Goffstown private citizens shooting range over there, and I'll be willing to pay $25 membership a year. But
Oh, not around? Okay.
but the other is.
It's gotta be supervised, you just can't.
Oh,
I've just thought of a moneymaker, but I won't talk about it.
If I may be.
Budget committee driving, shooting range, yeah.
Firing squad.
And we're not firing.
I have 2 hours of preparation for tomorrow's house.
Yeah, and you gotta
if I may
go.
be excused,
Yes,
because
okay.
I have to be up at 5.
Okay.
You need any help?
I do. All right, thank you. And I have nothing at my school. No, nothing to report.
Okay.
Thank you.
Fire truck. Where are we on that, Scott, before you go?
I'm not going
Are you just giving room for the,
and then, what?
fire truck? We,
With ambulances, we're gonna
not the
be-
bus, but the. didn't we-
it's gone out for bid.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
where we are
The-
now.
The pumper tanker has gone
Yes.
out for bid. All the
Okay.
bid specs, it was like a packet that, and it's going out
Right.
for bid.
And the bus, we're gonna have,
The ambulance.
the ambulance.
The ambulance,
That's the
we are
vernacular for-
taking a demo,
Yeah,
and is in Massachusetts, gonna get painted, and it's gonna be within our budget.
and we're gonna have 3
We're going to
operating.
We're going to retain one as a backup vehicle. Reason being is that the trade-in value on it was only $10,000 to $12,000, and it just didn't make any sense. So we're going to retain it. We're entertaining the idea of doing transports from Hillsborough County Nursing Home and other facilities.
Yep.
We're still working out the.
You can make that 12,000.
Well,
get for
believe it or
trading
not,
it in.
yes and no. I mean, I think we still have to work out whether or not that's a viable. We did some rough calculations, and it may not be as lucrative as you think it is. So you have to do the math on it. And that we're still. But the one good thing is that when our ambulance has to go out for service, we still have 2. And the other issue is that it will prolong the lifespan of the other 2 because we'll have, great.
service.
Right. Excuse me.
Do you guys need to take 5 before we do the school? Okay, let's segue over. On the school, there was a couple of things, and I did get an email, after I sent the agenda out, I got an email from Philip yesterday. He indicated, and I think I sent you guys the revenue sheet. I'm gonna try to take all that extra space and stuff out of there, but I just didn't have time. He also said that Ray's, and I think I said it in the email, Ray's continuing to look at the anomalies from the year-to-dates. I'm thinking it's a prior period adjustment that was done after the report was printed, but we'll
And
find out.
He told me, Ray told me to tell you.
Oh, yes.
That he hasn't had a chance to look at it, but he knows you want it.
Yep.
He suspects that the anomalies are due to, wait a minute, I had it in here. Journal adjustments and encumbrance maintenance.
Okay. That journal maintenance, journal maintenance, I could, yes.
Journal adjustments are
Yes.
things that, the month ended and he
Yes.
ran the report before everybody had
Before
gotten their
every-
paperwork in.
I agree.
And I don't know what encumbrance maintenance is, but we got sidetracked and I forgot to go back to it.
Okay, I do.
Okay.
And it doesn't, and it won't affect it because the calculation didn't include the encumbrances. But
Okay.
usually with the encumbrance, or unless he was taking the encumbrance and taking it from the encumbrance side to the expenditure side, and then it would just shift the two columns.
Okay.
So, okay, that's cool. We're just taking a peek at that. So, while you're talking, why don't you continue, Elizabeth, on the SAU? We'll do you
Why
out of
don't
order.
Sue go first? Because I have a feeling we have a lot of the same things, and since she's the school board rep, she,
Well, usually what we do is we let you guys do what you do and she fills in.
oh, okay, all right.
So there's, you get to talk
Okay.
about SAU Glen Lake and,
Let me do the SAU first. Sure. Because there's not too much to report from Glen Lake. It's basically, we all received the email that you sent us for the February actuals, where Ray had appended a note saying that the school was normally, even though it was February, they had spent normally as much as they would have in April. So they were spending more than they normally were in their spending. So I asked a little bit about that. There isn't any particular reason. There wasn't any like unforeseen single expense or anything that came up. It was just across the board. The budgeting was a little tighter last year than.
no, keep going.
Are you reporting on Glen Lake or the
No,
SAU?
No, this is the SAU.
Okay,
I'm talking kind of district-wide.
okay.
Right, not the SAU expenditure
Right, I'm
budget,
talking
but district-wide.
Gotcha. Okay.
District level.
Thanks.
And I'm just learning all this, so it's a little overwhelming, so bear with me. And the upshot of all that is they said that they are expecting to return less revenue this year than they did last year.
Less unexpended appropriation.
Yes, I'm sorry. Less unexpended appropriation this year than in past years, but they did not give me a figure,
Okay.
okay?
Presume that's due to not getting 1 point something million from the government, from the feds.
No.
We
No.
had-
It
no?
wouldn't have anything to do with revenue. It'll have to do with what the level of their budget was.
Okay.
Since they were budgeted, they said budgeting, they've been working on a budget for the last 2 years that was less than the default budget, and so they said things are tight. Budgeting is getting very tight.
Yeah.
And that this is the result of it. So they have enough money to get through the year,
Yeah.
but they're not gonna be returning as much as they have in previous years.
Yep, I think it was expected and it was forecast by us when we did the budget.
Okay,
Matters what they
okay.
get for their revenue.
Then I have some things about next year. And Sue, if you want to jump in and like take over on this, you're welcome to. But I have some things about next year. They've made their decisions. They've adjusted their budget to reflect the amount that they were voted on, the amount that they received in the election.
Default.
Yes, the default.
And did
They
you,
made the reductions to get to the default number.
Yes.
can we get a list of those?
I do.
mean-
I wrote on it, unfortunately, but
Oh, okay, cool.
But I do have a list of it, and it's only in paper copy.
If you can get me a copy of that, Elizabeth, I can try. Now, is it at the high MS-27 level or does it go deeper?
I don't know.
I don't know. It's things like. Do you want me to read some of the things? Will that
Yeah.
take
Yeah,
us?
go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay, they are going to be, they were gonna have to cut 4 teachers, but they got a grant, so they didn't have to cut the 4 teachers. They are cutting, let's see, 1 secretary at the high school, and by the way, the other secretary remember they were cutting a secretary at Maple Ave, which was already in their budget, that was already a done deal for them. They had 2 part-time secretaries, and they went to one full-time secretary.
Okay,
And that was done in their original budget. That change has already happened because the part-time secretary went ahead and gave her resignation and left. So they've already made that, so they said that's gonna save about $4,000 over the rest of the year.
okay.
Okay, so they're cutting 1 secretary at the high school, 2 paraeducators at the high school, 2 paraeducators at Mountain View. Then they're cutting the rest are funds, but they're cutting some from adult education, special ed tutoring, Power School University, tech summer help, district temp help, the administrative salary pool, because all the administrators in the district have voted to not take any pay increases this year. Or next year, sorry. They're pretty much cutting all repairs. The late buses, supply lines, equipment and furniture, assemblies, athletics, books and printing, things associated with field trips, some from co-curriculars. They're cutting the English language curriculum that's already been delayed a couple years. They're gonna delay that again.
That's the biggest piece right now. It's like 200 and something.
It's 112,000. The biggest
I thought it
piece
was higher.
is equipment furniture, which they said includes computers.
Okay.
And then software upgrades, a 1% reduction in health insurance, because they got their rates, and it was 1% less than what they had forecast.
Okay, and what's the savings there?
69,000.
Okay.
And savings in debt services because they refinanced the bond.
Yeah, and
That was
is.
54,000.
Okay.
Almost 55,000.
Yeah, that's good.
Um,
And that's gonna continue for, what, 3 more years?
well, I think the bond is paid off, or it will be
No.
next year.
No, this is just the high
That's
school.
the high school,
This
that's
is
10 more years.
The high school has more years. Mountain
More than
View
that.
is
Yours gets paid off in August
in
this year.
August, yes.
Okay.
High
Okay.
school is 10 more years and it was
Yeah.
refinanced.
So there are those cuts, and then they have also, in anticipation of the changes to the retirement system that are being discussed at the state level, they have also gone ahead and reduced an additional 622,000. And those are, if that doesn't work out, because,
How would, I thought that was gonna be more expensive for us, not a reduction.
So these are the reductions that she's talking about.
Yeah, but
yeah.
how do you reduce it because of the retirement? I thought the retirement
Went up.
were going up, not down.
The contribution has to go up, therefore you have to find the money from other lines.
Right,
the state contribution goes down, so the town's contribution has to go
correct.
up.
So, what I thought you said was a savings and how they're reducing the budget by 622,000.
No, what my understanding is that the reductions they're talking about in the state contribution to retirement funds is still in flux,
Yes.
okay? They are estimating that if it went through, it would mean an additional charge
It
of
would
622,000.
have to find another 622 to reduce.
Right. So in
Okay,
anticipation of that.
Yes.
And as I understand this, they have to give notice to people by April 1st if there's some question, April 15th, if there's some question that they might not have a job next year.
yes.
So they've gone ahead and identified what those cuts are gonna be and given notice to those people. If those cuts don't
Okay.
materialize at the state level, then they'll be able to add those positions back in.
So you're saying in order to possibly have to deal with an additional 622,000, how many positions are they talking about?
They are eliminating the nurse at Glen Lake, and they're changing that to an LNA or equivalent. And some of these things are abbreviations, and I don't know what they all mean.
You say
An
MCU
ISS
or-
coordinator support,
In-school suspension.
And school
Okay.
suspension?
a social studies teacher, half of a special ed teacher,
Where?
doesn't say.
Sue, do
The,
you know? Okay.
the SRO officer,
School resource?
yeah, school resource officer, the summer success program, one custodian, one placement, I don't know what that means.
Where you have an out-of-school district placement?
out-of-district
That
placement?
could almost be 100,000, 80 to 120,000.
It's 42,000.
42.
42.
That one's a cheap one.
One administrator, one biology teacher, one tech staff, a half of a teacher, and the NEWA testing.
Okay. Sue, did you have something to ask? Because I have 2 questions, one from Guy, one from Phil.
Yeah, the 622,000 comes from the governor's proposed budget.
Right.
Yes.
And the board felt it would be more palatable to take that number and apply it to our reductions. Although we hope the governor's budget doesn't. What we're going to do, and we hope to do, is when, for instance, the House has a totally different budget that they've proposed,
Yeah.
which wouldn't affect, they say, it doesn't affect towns and schools.
Okay.
So we would rather be able, when we find out whose budget or what conglomeration of a budget is gonna get passed, call people back, than have to scrounge and find money to pay people that we gave a contract to that we don't have the money for. So that's why the board voted to notify all these people by the 15th of April that their positions, just like Manchester did, and
Yeah. Guy?
I just have two quick questions, and before I ask them, can we get a copy of that electronically?
Yeah,
like
you know, why don't I
ASAP?
ask
If you give
Stacy
it-
to email you, because I mean, I wrote all over mine, so why don't
Okay.
I ask her to email you? I mean, I'm happy to like, to
Okay.
look,
She
pass it
didn't give you an
around.
Great.
electronic copy?
No, she just gave me this copy.
Okay.
I mean, I'm happy to pass it around
No,
if
no,
people
no,
wanna
sorry,
look at
I'll-
it, but
If we can get an electronic copy of this.
Yeah, if you
Okay.
could, if
I'll
you
ask
could
her
get a
to
copy
email,
of that.
to email you a copy.
Okay.
And I'll get it out to everyone.
Two quick questions. One, all these positions that are being projected to be cut, how many of them are vacant, if any?
Oh, I did not ask that question, so I don't know.
Is it, so
don't
some of
think
these
any.
could
I'm
be,
sorry. Can you
I don't-
repeat? I didn't hear you.
I don't
how many of
think
these
any.
positions are not filled, are vacant positions?
Currently vacant.
That's what I'd like to know. Two, all of these positions are funded in the default budget, along with contractual raises. So I'd really like to know exactly where the money for these teachers and these paras is being redirected to. I'd like to know what lines, because the school district
Is
put
that-
this default budget together themselves.
Retirement?
Well, I have a partial answer for you,
Okay.
because I did ask that question. Let me see if I can find it in my notes here.
That's gotta be one of them.
copious notes.
I did, well, no, this is, I got a million notes in here for everything.
You were gonna give us 5 minutes.
Okay, part of the, and I asked you Guy to bear with me, because as I said, I'm just learning those ropes here. Okay, basically, the answer I was given was that the default budget is based on the needs of the previous year, and those needs sometimes change. For example, if I understand this correctly, there are 5 new paraprofessionals that are being added this year for students from New Boston. In the long run, that additional cost will be offset by their tuition in the revenue column. But in
Okay.
the short run, you have to make room for them in the default budget. They don't necessarily get added, that doesn't get added on to the default budget. Is that correct, Sue?
And you
Did
have
I
to put
understand
it
that?
in there because you can't expend without an appropriation.
Right.
So, like, so all their salary
They'll
money
get the
had to
offsetting
get cut.
revenue.
It won't cost the taxpayers anything in the long run, but it still has to get added into the budget, so other things have to get cut. So that the bottom line of the budget adds up correctly.
We have to fund the paras, so
It's not considered a contractual agreement.
well,
Why?
I don't know.
I do believe it is.
A
They're,
para?
they're
Is it
specific,
'cause they're
they're
new?
specific, they're for
But they're new
specific
positions.
Specific
IEPs.
students,
They're new
yeah.
positions.
Right.
But is it because
not-
they're new though? Is it because
Well,
they're
there's-
new students, so
you-
it's a new?
Yes, I
Yes,
mean,
students coming from
That's
the New
why.
Boston, for example, when they
It's not
leave-
under the old budget because they're new students.
When they leave New Boston Elementary and they come to Mountain View and their IEP requires that para, that does become
para
a
has to come with
contractual,
them.
that does become a contractual obligation the school board has to follow.
But did you just say that they added these 5 positions to the default budget? Because that's not the way that a default budget is supposed to be calculated. A default
It's
budget
a
is,
contractual obligation.
there's no
is added-
contractual obligation to add 5
Oh, yes, there
paras.
is.
if we
Well,
know
there
if
is
they're,
a
if they're coming, if we know they're coming in,
We have to.
we have to buy they
They
have
found
to
the
be
money
in
in
there.
So the default budget had money in there for them.
Well,
Should-
I,
Is
Well,
that
but how
correct?
could it? Would you have known that
Not
they
if
were
that
coming?
default budget, if what I understand from what Elizabeth's saying is the default budget is calculated from the year before,
well, it is.
correct? So they wouldn't have known then they were going
But-
to need
Yes,
these.
they do.
Well, that's not
How
that's
would
not
they
necessarily
know?
true either.
Okay.
That's not necessarily true. I mean, from what I understand, I mean, the default budget, you start with what you have
This year.
last year.
Right.
Okay.
School being a little bit different because we are bringing in students from other districts, other towns. You know, in the 7th grade, we have students that come in from other towns that have paras coming in. So we wouldn't have that para until they come into 7th grade. So when we're calculating the default budget for the following year, when that student comes in, we don't have that para from the year before, but we know it's coming, so then it gets put into the default. It should be put into the default because we know it's coming.
Yep.
So it's not saying, okay, we have 5 paras this year, so we have to put in 5 paras for next year, but we know that there's gonna be a para needed for a student that's coming in next year, so that makes it 6 paras. So the default budget should have 6 paras in it for the next year, even though this year there's only 5.
I don't see that distinction in the law on how to calculate a default budget.
but we are contractually obligated to have
You are.
that para.
Okay.
That's
Because
called
we
the
are
area
responsible for
agreement
that
guide.
student.
So
Based
it-
on our area agreement, we are responsible for that student's education once they get into our
And
school at
all its
seventh grade.
expenses.
The area agreement
is a So all of these contractual
What we don't
Reductions.
have is we won't get the revenue until after the first bill goes out.
Right.
Okay, so what
Sending
you're talking
towns.
about here is Paris.
Yeah.
Well, that's just one thing. I mean,
Is that
I
the
don't
case with,
understand.
is that the case with all these other personnel
Well, I have a
reductions?
few other things on my list. I mean, I can,
Okay.
a few other
Right.
things. One of them is, that class sizes at Bartlett were, in the third grade, were just getting unacceptable levels. So they have decided.
Wait a minute, hang on for a second.
Bartlett, I did
You don't
too,
have
so
Bartlett.
I know, but that's what he's asking me about the default budget, and I asked the Stacy and Ray, and this is the answer they gave me.
Okay, one of the things I forgot to tell you, when you do the SAU in Glen Lake, it's really the SAU budget and the Glen Lake budget that
Okay.
that I expected
that
you
happens in the
to
SAU.
kind of talk about,
Okay.
not the district, unfortunately, but I didn't want to stop you because you did all the work.
Oh, okay, well.
But you have
But I
other
don't have
people.
that-
I wa-
I don't
well-
have them.
I don't need
have
to
the
talk about
Bartlett
the, she
thing.
can talk about the third grade teacher at Bartlett. I was just told that was something that they were added.
Okay.
The cost of utilities, I mean, the oil and the heat, they're saying, and I don't know anything about what contract they've made, if they've locked in a price or
I
anything
know a
else.
little bit because I was at the finance committee meeting, but go ahead.
Well, I know,
Just a
and
little bit.
inflation was the other thing.
Yeah.
They said that accounts for the great part of the difference.
Okay, I would like, within the next couple, I don't know if this is form of a motion, Mr. Chairman, or just a request, but I would like a line-by-line detail of what it is that we're spending money on that's gonna cost us teachers. And Pat, what's more important than that?
Well, let's do this way. If
If-
I can get the budget that we get, because you guys, whenever we get the reports at the end of the year, we always, or monthly, we could get them individual lines and what gets appropriated. Do you know if they've done that yet, Sue?
I just got back. I don't know where they're at.
We need to find out then where we are at so that each one of those lines that we get in the reports every month has, go ahead, guys.
No.
I
I just had one, I just want to tag along with what Guy said. This, to me, is pretty darn important.
Yeah.
And this, to me, would be a presentation
From the school board.
from the school board, whether it be Stacy or Ray or a school board member, as to,
Okay.
here's what was voted on, here was the default, here is what the other budget we came up, here's where the money was taken from, and here's where it has to go, because we had to put oil in the tanks, and just like we had to spend another $100-something thousand on gas and fuel oil, there's maybe 200,000, I don't know what it is, so in order to reach that, we had to rob Peter to pay Paul. We had this other expense, and we had to take it from here to do that. I think that we're owed that.
Yeah.
And I no disrespect to Sue, but you're late in the game here, so maybe it's something that's something that I think Stacy or Ray should be presenting to us.
It would help us too, it's educational for us
I
to
mean,
know.
and then it's gonna set us up for next year's budget
Yeah.
discussions.
I see a lot of this. Let me
Yeah, I mean, I
formally,
feel bad I don't have answers for
No,
you.
no,
I-
It's not, I don't think it's your
It wasn't
job
your-
to
no.
have done
Okay.
that.
no, we got remarkable detail already. Let me formally request Philip provide us with some, and I'll set aside in the agenda next month, in May.
Right.
Yeah,
Body.
a presentation
Right,
in a
right,
body to
right.
give us an update on where that would be
Wednesday night's not possible.
Yeah, it won't be.
for the SAU.
Yeah,
So in New
that's when
Boston.
Ray and
They're
Stacy
gonna be
have
in
to
New
be in New
Boston on
Boston
Wednesday
at,
night.
yep. at
Then
our
let's
school
adjust
board.
our.
But bump, so our experimentation with Wednesday has just gone,
Back to Tuesday.
is that what?
I don't buy that, and I don't buy that because we have two assistant superintendents, people go on vacation. There is absolutely no reason why Brian or, her name is Mary Claire,
Can't make the-
why they cannot substitute one meeting. I just don't, I think it's possible,
He's a
so,
former
right,
former
I mean.
school board
I've
member.
seen- yeah, I've seen it
Phil
happen.
was a former school board member. I mean, that.
I would agree with that. I mean, that we can ask the question. I mean, they do have people that can go in their place, and they do occasionally miss meetings, and maybe they go to that meeting late.
Or they can
come
send to
us
this meeting.
first, and they come to this
Right.
meeting late or whatever.
Okay.
I mean, we can ask the question, we can see what the response is, and then we can go from there. I guess, if I may, on this whole thing, and just,
Yep,
you
and then I
know,
got-
you did say there was a reduction in sports, I guess. in athletics. I guess, I don't know why that wouldn't be the first top line on that. Having been in the school board when the vote came up about pay to play, why that was not the first thing thrown back out there as pay to play. The town's doing it for Parks and Rec. It's an appropriate thing. Every town is doing it. I mean, quite honestly, we were living in a fantasy land when everything, all sports or whatever, was mostly free.
I agree.
20 years ago, I was paying to play.
We did talk about this. We actually brought this up. And for full disclosure, I should say, personally, I also support pay to play. They had some reasons, and if they're gonna come and talk to us about this whole thing, maybe it's better if I let them
And well,
state
yeah,
their
I
reasons
think,
instead of funneling
yeah,
it through
I just,
me.
I was thinking if it comes up a conversation while you're there, I think it's, something.
We did
for you
talk
to-
about it.
But it's just,
And they had reasons, and I'm not saying I'm convinced, but they did have reasons, and since they're coming, I think they should state them.
I agree.
You have
And-
something
I
else?
just wanted to make note of what, I agree with you, Scott, and you happened to mention that we do have 2 assistant SAU superintendents that can come in here. And it's interesting you brought it up, because one of the reasons I brought this up tonight is that I got a constituent who called me and said, we've got 2 assistant SAU superintendents here with 3,000 kids. They've got 2 in Manchester with 17,000. Why, the salary of just one of those people would pay for 2 of these teachers that are being let go?
Well, you've got a little more
We
than
got other
3,000,
towns.
because you got, they also
Well,
are
it's
the,
certainly
for
not close to
Dunbarton and New Boston.
17,000.
Well, that's
The
true, but
point
it's more than
being
3,000.
is that I want to see the detail on what's more important than the teachers. What is it that they have to spend, and maybe they can defend it, but I want to see why we're losing teachers and the money isn't being taken from somewhere else.
But
Let's
Dan-
see the lines.
Let me ask the question.
Okay.
Go
I
forward from
actually-
there.
I-
Phil.
I-
Yep.
There was one of the SRO officer.
Yes.
SRO. Doesn't that affect the town's budget too, now?
Well, I can clarify that. The
Because-
Board of Selectmen has not discussed this, but we wanted that in the budget. It's not in the budget. The Board of Selectmen will, the police chief, and make a determination as to whether or not we will put an SRO in that building. Because if it is, because right now it's under the town's budget. We wanted it under the school's budget so that they could recoup 30% of the cost to the sending communities.
No, it is there right now.
It was both,
It
It's
was in
half.
both,
but
but
we
I'm
have
saying.
estimated revenue on
Right,
the
but
town
the
side.
question is that the Board of Selectmen will need to determine whether or not we want to put an SRO in that high school.
Okay.
Without, if, we may come back and say to the school, if you do not pay, we are not providing the service. I don't know what, we haven't had that discussion.
Okay.
Right now, we've been putting an SRO in there, and it's under the town's bill.
Yes.
But you're getting revenue from the school side
In
to
this,
offset the time that they're in the school.
Correct.
in this year's budget, it was proposed. In the past, it was never a revenue. In the past, it was never a revenue from the school. It was solely a town expense.
Right.
Last- I
Yes,
thought
Yeah.
yes.
This current year,
It
Not
failed.
till July 1.
Right.
I thought this current school year.
It's never
in
been
the
a
school's
revenue.
budget.
No, we didn't make it. We tried
Didn't make it?
hard.
Oh,
It's,
I thought
it was in the budget,
Yeah.
but the budget got a default. So the school board said, well, we're gonna cut this out.
Oh,
We're not
got it.
paying you this money.
That's right. It was in there, but it got to the default. It was
Right.
in there, but we
It's in the
didn't.
budget that would start on July 1.
Well, no. Last year's budget, it was in there, but that budget
did not pass.
Didn't pass, so it was in the, we were ran to a default.
It wasn't in the default, but.
It wasn't,
It's
well,
not
because
in
it
the
wasn't a
default.
default, because it was the first year that it was in the school board's
Correct.
budget, but that budget didn't pass.
Correct.
And the same thing happened this year. Got it.
Okay?
Round and round we go.
I have a teeny bit
Accurate, but-
more, but we did talk about process a little bit, and briefly, just to reiterate, they want our questions to go chair to chair, so our questions go to you, and then you talk to Phil.
Okay.
Pancos, basically. So I asked them again how they wanted questions from us, so.
Okay, well, that'll
questions
be a
should not come
discussion I
to
think
me.
Phil and I will have.
Right.
Because I am of the feeling, and I work with Scott, Scott's here, he's the representative from the school board. Why can't he take the questions to his committee? And the same thing with
Wait,
Sue.
Scott's for the town.
Yeah, he's with the
Yeah.
town.
You said school board.
Oh, I said, sorry. Scott could bring them, okay, maybe he can do it to the school board. Scott could take it to
Would
town.
you like
I
me to
was,
do it for you? I can take the notes.
I thought Sue, being the representative from the school board, that would be what that position does. So that's something I will take that under,
They had other
with
things
Philip.
too, but if they're gonna come and discuss all this stuff with us, maybe, given the contentious nature of our relations with them last year, maybe that's something that we should discuss with them directly.
What?
Can I suggest that? They had some other concerns about process.
Sure.
And I'm thinking maybe, again, instead
If
of.
it was
since they're
process
coming
between them and
anyway-
us.
Yeah, if they're
it's-
coming anyway, maybe that would be a good time to have a discussion about how we
Sure.
make this more functional.
I think.
I'll just throw this out. When I was, well, I've done it in both capacities. I've had my laptop up, there's some questions, and I would just put the superintendent and then the school board chair, or if it was me, I'd copy myself, obviously, and or if it's Sue, I type the questions, and at the end, I hit the thing, and it goes to Sue, and then it comes back to me, I forward them to you. Didn't seem like it was all that difficult. When it was Darryl Lockwood at the time, I sent it to Darryl, and our business manager, I had my numbers, they were numbered, I got the response right below it, it went out to all the budget committee members, it was pretty easy. I don't know. Didn't seem all that hard, but.
I think having been recently on the school board, and I think the problem was at one point, everybody from the budget committee was asking questions.
Correct, and they had all.
I
these-
don't think it necessarily, I know that's what they asked, because that's what we did, that was happened last year, everything funneled through the chair.
We've done it for like 2 years.
2
or
years.
3 years.
But I think they just want it through one person, is what they really want it
That's
to be.
fair, I don't have a problem with that.
I think it's just been easier to go through you and come back to you, but I think we can ask that question. As to if it could be Sue.
Sure.
Being the school board rep.
I'm talking about the meetings here. When we have meetings here for questions, I would expect Sue to take those back. And I think you took a few notes at the beginning of the meeting. If it's during the month and you have questions, feel free to send them to me, and yes, I will put them all together and forward them off.
Well,
That's
why
not
do
a
we need
problem.
to send them to Sue, though?
You wouldn't send them to Sue.
If they're for the school board, why wouldn't we send them to the school? If she's gonna be the one being the representative of the school board to the budget committee, why wouldn't we send?
I may already have some answers from other questions that other people are calling, so if you're sending it to Sue, then she's filtering it again. She's saying the same, you had the same question as Checker had, as Guy had, and Ivan had. And she
Sure.
just got 4 of the same question.
Sure.
We're
Or
trying
4 of them
not
come
to.
you.
It's our committee, and I don't mind, I don't care which way we want to do it, but I have been a filter for them so that the same question doesn't get asked of the school board multiple times. That was the concern over the last number of years. I don't care which way we go. Ivan?
Just a clarifying question. When you started your remarks, you said certain people had foregone their raises.
All administrators, they told me, all administrators in the district, so it's all principals, assistant, I'm not sure who entirely, if they mean guidance
They had
counselors and everything,
multi-year
but
contracts,
they
which, by the
gave
way, I
up
have
their
a.
raise.
Yes, they
They did
gave
not.
up their raise.
Yes.
Guidance counselors are not administrators.
They are not okay, I wasn't sure
12-month employees.
who is included in that, but I was told that every administrator in the district,
Who's 12 month
gave up their raise.
All the tech people also.
Unless they have a multi-year contract.
If they had multi-year contracts,
Out of 10 months in the
which
school,
confused the heck out of me,
10 employees
because
and
multi-year contracts normally have to go before the voters, and there was some other thing in there that says, okay.
certified
Um,
for admin staff.
Okay.
Further on SAU budget
For
and
SAU,
Glen
no,
Lake
that's
budget?
it.
Okay.
And as far as Glen Lake goes, I didn't have, did you wanna say something?
Yeah, I'm getting, are we talking the SAU budget or the district lines in the Goffstown budget? What are we,
We're talking about the district, well,
0,
that's the district lines then.
correct.
I'm
Which
very
includes-
old fashioned. The SAU is a
No, you are
totally different entity
absolutely,
as far as I'm
to
concerned.
be clear, you are absolutely correct.
It's got
It is
nothing to do
the,
with Goffstown.
it does, correct, 0, yes, it does, because there's
Well,
a single
yeah,
line there,
you
but
know
you're
what I
right.
mean, budget-wise.
It's the 0,
Lines.
lines, which also includes
The SAU budget.
the
is in there
SAU
as a line.
expenditure, yes,
So 0, okay.
yes. District,
So it's about
Why?
7 million for the district and about a
Yes.
million for SAU.
yes.
and that, the district is running, the district budget is running at about the same as the schools. Everybody's running, they're expending more than they usually do. How do I say
Well,
that? They're not spending more, they're.
Percentage-wise of
Yes.
the budget.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I remember what I said about percentages, they can get very
Tricky.
anything you want. And this is one of the reasons you can say, they're spending at a higher percentage rate.
Doesn't matter.
Maybe not really, because if you look at the dollar amounts of what they're spending,
They're spending,
it's,
right.
but because the budget is lower,
Certain large
it
bills
makes
come
it
to
worse
the
than what it might really be. They're not gonna be able to return as unexpended appropriations at the same levels they had before.
At one time, so
just
Right.
because the budget wasn't made totally available through the budgeting process.
At Glen Lake, I did talk with Leslie Doster for quite some time, and luckily I already know that school very well. She talked about the feedback she gave as far as cuts for next year. She told me that she cut absolutely everything she could before she turned to cutting people. That she stripped everything out of her, like, they don't have any money for Glen Lake, there's no money for technology the next year, there's no money for the library. I believe the parents group is covering the assemblies. She said and they cut supplies, she cut everything she could before she went to people. And so they didn't have anything else new to add to this sort of general picture. But I will just say, frankly, I was shocked at how much fluctuation there is, or can be, in any single year in what they need to expend. Just from people don't sign their kids up for kindergarten until like 2 days before, and they gotta make room for them, and kids in kindergarten who have never been identified as needing special services, and then they get in kindergarten and guess what? They need all sorts of aid, and I had no idea that they had to be that flexible. So that was just my personal observation. That threw it out there. That's it.
Further questions? Kindergarten? Let's, before I go too far, because I don't want to miss this, and it's gonna be very easy for me. If you notice on the agenda, there's some future dates for school board, A&F meetings, and do you guys see those dates, and are you okay with those dates? So, Elizabeth, you were gonna be for May, let me start with, Lisa.
Yeah, I'm fine.
I think you had mentioned April
I
18th, and that's why I
volunteered,
put you there. Elizabeth, are you okay with May 2nd?
Yeah, if you call my husband and tell him he's taking my daughter to a Girl Scout meeting.
You can switch with, you can switch with,
No, that's
It's
okay.
fine.
Yeah, wait till he knows he has to wear the dress.
Dan,
that's fine.
Dan will take your daughter to the Girl Scout.
He'll wear the dress too.
Yeah. And he'll wear the costume. Yeah. I'll pay for that picture.
and I'll pay for the range at the,
Yeah.
all right.
$25.
And John's not here, so I can't ask him. So Ivan, you okay with the 16th?
No. No, won't be in the country.
Because you're not in the country, do you want, can you switch with, either, will you be back June 6th? I'm not sure if
I
John,
might be able to switch with you, Ivan.
will you be in the
Oh,
country
no, I
on May
can't.
2nd?
No, I can't, actually.
She won't be in the country either.
Okay, she put the carrot out there,
I'm
drew it back
sorry,
real
I
fast.
forgot to bring my calendar.
Yes.
Okay, so the thing is, can John make the 16th of May? That's a month from now, right?
Or can you do, because I could switch with you too, if you want. But that's Monday, I'm supposed to go Monday.
All right. Figure it out later.
Yeah, I could do
Can we do that?
Okay.
that. Done.
So Ivan is gonna do the 18th. And he won't report on that because he won't be in the country for the next meeting. And Lisa, you're gonna do the 16th of May?
I will.
Okay. And then we'll keep Elizabeth on May 2nd. She gets not to have to go to the Girl Scouts. And Checker, you're back on for June 20th?
Yeah.
If not, we'll talk
It's
about
far
next.
enough out.
Yeah, and that'll probably be it until the last, or the third week in August. Okay? Thank you. Let's, because I moved those around, but Lisa is on Bartlett, so I'm gonna move Bartlett anyway. So you wanna talk about Bartlett, Lisa?
Yeah, I mean, I met with David Bousquet, we met for like an hour and a half. I had actually never been in Bartlett, so I got a tour. And he, I'm new, as you know, so I didn't realize that he couldn't really discuss with me that much he doesn't really know, about how it's all gonna go down with the default budget. He didn't, that's what he said to me anyway. He gave me indications of how he thinks things are gonna go. I don't know, that's what I got from that that it sounds like, the administrators make the decision, or the school board makes the decision as to how the money is spent.
Okay.
I thought I was gonna get more
Yeah,
detailed.
well, yeah, okay.
But what I did get is that anybody who's been there, it's a very old building, it's very cramped, and the big thing is that they are making room for this third grade classroom. They have to hire a new teacher. Right now, they have 199 students, and next year, enrollment for September is 213. So they're down in the first level is where they have their SPED classes, their special ed classes. So one of those classrooms, I mean, I guess I don't have to get into all this, but one of those classrooms is like a multi-purpose room. It's about half the size of this room. It's a teacher's room, it's storage, and they also use it as a SPED class. So they're gonna be clearing, the teachers decided that they'd forego their teacher's room. They're gonna clear that out, they're gonna move another SPED class there, and they're gonna move a first grade classroom down to all to make room for this new third grade class that they're gonna need. There's also, and again, I don't know. Special ed, yeah, sorry. You can ask me. I'm approachable. It's special ed. The other thing that I don't know a lot about is the phase 2 construction. I think Phil might know more about it, but he's out of the room. It was a warrant article which did not pass. To fund that, it was $200,000, I think.
It was to put money into an
The
account
CIP.
to think about something that is probably going to, as they said, 3 years down the road.
Okay, so we talked about that a little bit. That would, they have a portable or trailer behind the building, which is their library.
Yeah.
So that would be part of that, moving that into the building, creating more classroom space, making the kitchen's very small. It's very small for the amount of students they have. So he did say, I said, how do you think this default budget, how do you think that's gonna look for you? And he said, let's see, the parents will have to pay for supplies. I wanna be careful the way I say it, but it's a poor school. It's a socioeconomic, area that has been identified by the Department of Education as low income. So for the first time in a long time, parents are gonna be asked to pay for supplies. He said the teachers have put together a fund. Obviously, if kids don't show up with supplies, they're gonna help cover that. But field trip money, assembly money will be cut. No new technology, no new library books, and those will be the biggest cuts. That's what he supposed. So that's all I have.
Okay.
I think he means by supplies, some of the extra supplies.
No,
That's
he
what I
means
supplies
pencils
got
and
cut.
stuff like that. You know how you get the supply list?
No, I've never gotten
Well,
a
you
supply
didn't, we
list.
didn't at Maple Ave, but in the
did
past
at
you
Maple
used
Ave.
That's
to.
what the parents group at Maple Lab.
I did.
This
I got-
year, the
I got a
parent
supply
group
list every
paid for
year.
it, But in the past, you'll get a letter at the beginning of the year from the classroom teacher saying, please have markers,
Wipes or
pencils,
whatever.
pens.
Yeah.
So the parent groups try to offset the cost of
Okay.
those supplies.
Okay.
Just hoping he did the camera work. Questions for Lisa?
It's late.
Okay. Ivan, you want to talk about high school?
I have nothing to report from high school.
You don't?
Questions on that report?
I have one for the high school.
Go for it.
Some good stuff.
Ask it.
No, good news.
Oh, tell us.
Josh DeRocher was named Music Educator of the Year, and for those of you who don't know Josh, he's just a phenomenal person for one, and just an outstanding individual. So congrats to him. The high school is in the running for New Hampshire High School of the Year. I don't know if they've heard that. You haven't heard yet on
No,
that.
no, we had to visit last week.
And because I have a daughter there, I'll have two next year. I get the Grizz, which is their
Paper.
what? It's their
The little news.
right. And I get it electronically, and I suggested to, I think it was Frank, that you folks should get that, and you should get a copy of every publication to know what's going on.
I think that's a fantastic idea.
And if you get a copy of this month's Grizz, you'll be pleasantly surprised to see all of the accolades and accomplishments of a lot of the students this year, because there have been a ton of accomplishments in the high school. Just starting from doing very well on the standardized tests, and just the number of kids going to some college. It was a very impressive publication this particular month, so if you can get your hands on it or.
It's online, you can.
You can sign up for it on the webpage.
Yeah, I'd encourage you to do it, and it gives you a good pulse as to what's going on. So.
Anything on the high school, Sue, you want to add in?
Nope.
Further questions? Now, from the veteran, that's how to do a report, right?
From the.
We've had those before, and it works. John had to excuse himself.
I'm
He
still
said-
hoping to have my day in school.
All right.
You know, Ivan, I'm gonna go there and give a presentation about Goffstown history. You can like come along as my caddy or something. I'll sneak you in.
As your aide,
When?
He doesn't have to sneak in. All he's gotta do is
next
call.
well, he might have to.
And I'm going on May 9th, Ivan, if you'd like to go to teach a class, so.
Check.
I'd love to,
As
sure.
a visitor, because they'll already be with me, so.
I would prefer you not do that.
No, but I mean, they're already, you know, how the last time they were saying, oh,
I've
but we have
lost
to have somebody
control,
who spent
haven't
time
I?
to.
Where is my
do
hammer?
it.
Where is my hammer?
Ivan, as a budget committee member, wants to tour the high school, he needs to call a high school and tell him he wants to come.
I've already done that.
all he has
It's
to
gotta
do.
go through it's gotta go through a superintendent also.
He wants to be there for the whole day.
He wants to stay for a day.
Hold it, okay?
He wants to do homework,
He's got to get his,
And-
To eat in the cafeteria.
his,
gym class.
what do you call
I
it?
can't guarantee that. And you'll have to sit there
FBI
for-
certificate saying he's not a
Background check.
risk. Background check, thank you very much.
See, I'm
Yes,
awake.
got to give him a hug. Checker, Maple Ave,
Maple Ave,
Do it.
and also April 4th, school board
Yep.
meeting.
yep.
I like that one.
Maple Ave, very similar, to what Lisa spoke, to David about it. Bartlett, Suzanne, Pishka relayed the same message from the SAU, which is that, that all decisions about where cuts will be made comes from the SAU and filters through the SAU. Therefore, she couldn't really speak about what specifically things were going to look like, because all of that needs to come through the SAU. So we moved on to some of the other things going on in the school. She gave me a great tour of Maple Ave, and I've been a parent at Maple Ave for the past 5 years, and I don't think I had any idea how wonderfully they use the space that they have. There's not a single amount of space in that school that is not utilized to its fullest capacity. It's absolutely phenomenal. We talked about some of the questions that she has about how things will go for next year. And for Mrs. Pishka, her biggest concerns are the older facility that they have at Maple Ave and maintenance issues that sometimes come up. This year they were lucky, they didn't have any pipes freeze, they didn't have any maintenance issues that have come up thus far, but in the past that has been an issue, and when you're working on such tight budgets, she does get nervous. What do you do if you don't have anything for that rainy day, so to speak? Also, the technology is a piece that's not going to be there for next year, so what they're doing is they're using grant monies to pay for the technology they have as part of their new reading curriculum this year. The children are being assessed online, which was something they piloted last year with grant monies, and the teachers, they got fabulous feedback from the teachers. The assessments were extremely accurate and really helped drive instruction, so they wanted to keep that piece for this year, and they were able to do that by using some grant monies. The PFT, which is their parents and faculty together program or group, this year was able to help out by funding supplies for the classrooms, some field trips for different classes, because that was something that was not in the budget. Mrs. Pishka doesn't know how much they'll be able to fund that for next year. She's hoping they can count on the PFT to do some of that, and we'll see how that goes when the PFT looks at their numbers. And some good news on lots of good news on the Maple Ave front, but one thing in particular, the DI, Destination Imagination team, made up of 4th and 5th graders, some from Mountain View and some from Maple Ave, which is a group of students who go and compete in tournaments, is going on. They won the state tournament, and they're going on to the Globals in Tennessee at the end of May.
How do they get their
Son's on that
funding to
team.
get there?
Yeah, because the checker's son is on that team.
Oh, they're great. So how is your son gonna be funded to get down to Tennessee?
They have a DI fund, and what happens is their team will be able to tap into that fund. to
Private
send-
fund.
Oh, private fund.
Privately funded.
And what happens is they can tap into that fund, use that money to go, and then they fundraise. The group, we will fundraise as parents and
Okay.
children to replenish that for future groups that,
If you'd like to make a donation, Dan, you can.
you'll be getting a letter, I'm
To
sure.
do
That we will be soliciting.
501c3?
All over town,
Yeah, I think it is. Tess Mort set it up many, many years ago.
yeah,
No, because that's tax deductible.
So now we have something
and
in
we're
common.
tax
My daughter
season,
went to
so
that
it's
too.
exactly.
a wonderful
So
reminder
it's
for
really
Fun.
exciting. It's been a little while since we've had a team from Goffstown go to Globals, so that's very exciting.
Questions for, oh, you're not done?
Oh, no, go ahead, questions, because then I
Yeah.
have the,
School board. So let's ask about Maple Ave first. Questions on Maple Ave? Looks like you're hitting the school board.
okay.
April 4th.
So, April 4th, same day, got to go to the admin and finance committee meeting. Basically, I do have, if you would like it, I have the manifest, probably very similar to the numbers that you saw that was voted upon and approved at that meeting. I'm sorry.
Usually report to the budget committee what the manifest numbers were.
Well, all right.
Because they don't watch school
you.
board meetings.
I'm sorry, thank you, again,
You'd be
first time.
surprised.
Ah.
Says who?
The total manifest value was $1,290,182.77.
That's not the number I have.
It's not?
Well, feel free to report it on your own then.
Yeah, right. Your number makes more sense.
I mean, you had
I
Elizabeth
was
carrying you,
wondering why
so
it
come on.
didn't add up. Thank you.
Sure, absolutely. Some of the things talked about,
What were the big items on the manifest?
oh,
Payroll was about one,
payroll was 400, with the taxes or just payroll?
payroll and taxes and health insurance, if they did it on
There
that one.
wasn't health insurance, so payroll and taxes were $649,079.63.
And feel free to round that.
Oh, sorry.
On your report. No, when we do budgets, I am already down to the dollar, but you don't have to here if you don't want to. That's up to
Okay.
you, unless
Okay.
someone wants the individual numbers.
The AP sped activity was $107,000.
Provider,
Yeah,
transportation.
most of it was transportation for
That
the
is all
provider. Yeah, it was
transportation.
all
Yes, okay.
transportation. And then for other, we had fuel, Fred full of fuel coming in, 24,300. Communications for data hub service, which they get billed October through April. So that bill was $12,064. The Microsoft Office license renewal, 21,000. PSNH was 20,000. Driver's ed, fee payment, that's a flow-through from the state funds, was 8,000. The SAU assessment, the March and April assessments, was $146,777.
Do you want to tell us a little more about the driver ed that you had a discussion on, Sue? Because it does have a budget impact. Well, it doesn't have a budget impact, and that's the point. The loss of state funds, increase in fees.
Well, the state funds disappear, the fees for the students are gonna increase.
So
The only way we can make up,
And when does that start?
I believe,
If my daughter has to
Next
take it, I'm
state
just
budget.
curious. Okay.
I have in my notes a
Gotta sign her up
contract
tonight.
changeover
Yes,
at the end of this year.
so somewhere in July.
Yeah.
I'm not doing it.
And the driver's ed contract with Mr. Ross's driving school is also coming.
I don't know, I wasn't at
Insurance
finance, so
or
I don't know what they discussed.
That was in finance, didn't they do that in the full board meeting?
Yes,
That was on the full board, see, some of us do wash the school
yeah,
board.
because that was spoken about. in the
Right.
board meeting.
Any, you have more on the board?
Just the other piece they talked about, similar to what Scott was saying, was the oil prices and where the oil contracts are coming in. They had, prices right now are around $3.86, and this was 2 weeks ago, so I'm sure that's changed. This was April 4th. $3.86 a gallon, that number right there is over $1 under what they, $1 over what they had budgeted for.
What's the noise?
They were trying to get a consortium going, but most companies have backed away from doing that because of everything going on in Japan, the Middle East, just globally right now. So they're probably going to have to go the traditional routes of sending out bids to bid on paper soon, we're gonna on milk soon. Yeah, that's about it.
Anything else to add, Sue, on that?
Of a financial nature, no, I don't think so.
Okay. Anything that, yeah, because everything has some kind of financial impact, but
Wow.
directly or indirectly, but it's one of those things where, this is just an explanation, not from what the terminology is. Some of them are more obvious than others.
The superintendent made her recommendations as to where the budget cuts needed to happen. The board looked at them and concurred with her presentation and voted to approve those cuts.
So you have a detailed list?
I don't have it with me,
Not with you,
sorry.
but we have something, and I think I put that on here.
And the nice piece of that came out was all administrators at the building level have foregone their increases, even though some of them were contractually due to get an increase this year. All the tech people did. Basically, all the non-contract people agreed to take no increase next year.
The 1-year bargaining thing, that passed?
Yes.
Did, okay. That was a very minor, yeah, the buzzing, I think, is coming from the back of the room. We have to
Yeah,
talk
right.
louder or talk faster so it kind of diverses us through it. Any further questions for school and finance? I saw Ivan's hand first, and I'm gonna come over to you, John.
I just had a question. I didn't understand. What, all the contracts, all the teacher contracts are coming due? Does that impact the budget next year? I mean, how is it gonna impact?
Teacher contracts.
Everything will be level, because there is no.
No, our teacher's contract
What?
is not, no.
No, the teacher
You have
contract isn't up
steps,
until
right?
next year.
Right, till next year, but in next year's budget, there is no,
Yes, the
got their
2011-12
increase.
still has the contractual
Right.
obligation.
Okay.
So the budget that did not get passed, there's
still in
it's-
effect.
It's still in
But
effect.
the one that we'll be preparing for the following year,
That's not what
It's
he's
done.
asking.
That'll be flat.
okay, that's what I thought you were asking.
That's not what Ivan is asking.
I thought
He's
you were
asking for the
that.
teacher contracts for the budget that's gonna start July 1.
Right.
It's in whatever, it's just, you keep
We-
that teacher, you have to go with the contract.
Salaries, benefits, the increase for us was almost $3 million. Which is why we brought in, I know a lot of you think our budget was outrageous, but it wasn't, because we had to absorb that $3 million.
The
Yes.
contractual agreement for salary
That's
increases.
it.
But the next year, you won't have that,
Well, depending
depending on.
if, we'll budget at status quo, and we'll hopefully have contracts to go on the ballot to be approved or disapproved by the voters.
The salaries in the default budget were only 1.35 million.
And Benny's.
No, that's it. Salaries, taxes, and benefits, excluding the new positions proposed, was $1.35 million, not 3. In fact, special education services went down 670,000. The difference between, so I would have to get an explanation of where the
Okay.
3 million is coming from. John, then Guy, and then, okay, go ahead.
Well, I think all the admins that are foregoing their raises, I mean, that's pretty significant. I'm curious, 2 things, Sue, do you know what that amounts to? What amount of money? Any?
Ooh, I do.
Right.
I can answer this question. In the administrative salary pool, it's at $27,910. Oh,
No, I think
oh,
that's,
sorry.
is that
Can you
the,
answer it?
do you think the pool they were using to give the raises for
Yes.
the non-contractual? And the
No.
contracted ones were already in their salary? I'm not sure that's the case.
I'm curious how they did it. Was it unanimous? Was there a vote? Any idea?
It was probably a request. And they just,
It was a voluntary
yeah.
Okay.
thing.
Last question.
I don't know if they got together and had a coffee or
I forget.
if they did it all. online.
Just another question. This one came up with a few reports, and I forget this. Do the principals report to the SAU? I mean, it's the school board that's the governing body and that ultimately makes the financial decisions, not the SAU. But do principals report to, say, Stacy? I mean, in terms of,
He's their boss.
she is their boss?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. But there are huge chunks of the budget that the principals have no say over.
That's, yeah, I understand that. For
Salaries,
example, the
benefits,
district and the district budget.
Contractual
Yeah.
stuff, they
Okay.
have no say whatsoever.
Thanks.
I just update, the school item was the elementary facilities committee.
Oh, cool.
Give an update if that's okay, so.
Yeah, go right ahead.
Um,
What do you have to report? Not much.
Well, we narrowed it down to 3 finalists. We requested additional information, more detailed information from, we had 10 original,
Is this for the engineering
this is
study?
for the engineering study. Well, the engineering study and plans, not
Okay.
just the study.
Yep.
To get us to the point where we can put it out to bid, to
Okay.
build.
Yep.
I say that because there's.
There is a
some
difference.
There's a big
Yes.
difference there.
Yes.
We had 10, I believe it was 10 that came in. We narrowed it down to 3. From that, we then requested additional information to explain their fee. From that, we were taking further steps because it was not in line as to where we thought it was.
Okay.
So we'll be requesting additional information from the school board itself and also from the 3 bidders, the 3 finalists.
Okay.
That'll be moving forward, and we're hoping to make a decision, is it May? No, it was May.
March already went
I
by.
was gonna say March already went by. May, the beginning of May, right?
Oh.
May 5th. May 3rd?
He's
He-
got-
he was
my
there
so-
too.
My social secretary,
Yeah,
yeah.
May 3rd, we wanna make a vote by May, we wanna have a decision by May 3rd.
What's the timeline in the, with the proposal for the contract, start and end?
We would like them to have plans ready for us
End of October.
end of October, so that we can start presenting out to the public as to
Another
what-
RFP for what it
Right,
would
but
look
before we
like?
even get there, just
Public hearing?
before we
Public
get there,
information.
public informational, just to get everyone out there where, what we have,
Okay.
what our estimated, so that when we go to March, the information will be out there.
So you think you're gonna have a warrant article for next March?
That is our plan,
Okay,
that is the
well,
plan.
yeah, that's, okay,
That's a long-term plan from Washington,
Okay.
that's a short-term plan.
yeah, that's,
But the reason is because the bonding, trying to time in the bonding with the bonding ending for the middle school, picking up a new bond for this, so that.
so you won't
There'll be a
actually,
little bit of-
we won't have any, right, so we're gonna have a concept and a conceptual
No.
price of what it might
We
cost?
won't have a concept, we will have a set of plans.
Okay, it's a build plan, this is what we want.
This is what we want, we will have an estimate for-
From this company.
From this company as to
Okay.
what, at the time, the
It
price would
might
be.
cost.
Well, what the estimate is to build
Right.
it based on current prices
Right.
and stuff, I mean, obviously. we
And then
can
if it
put
gets
out-
approved by the voters, then you would still have to go through an RFP process and actually get a builder.
Right, we can't go to an RFP until we
But you have the money.
Approval to spend the money.
Sure.
But that's why,
Okay.
come October, we're gonna go out, start letting people know what the plans are.
Okay. Cool. Questions, further questions on that? Understanding where we are and what we're doing? All right, there was one more assignment for the school side. When it came to the actual budgets themselves, not looking at it from school, but looking at it from a range. Did you guys get a chance to look at it? For instance, Lisa, the 1100 to the 1199 numbers? Okay, we'll work on those. If you look at the reports, you kind of see the MS-20. So did any of you get a chance to try to hit that? Elizabeth had the 1200 series, Ivan had the 1300 series, John had the 2000 to 2299, and Checker had 2300 up through 3000. You guys get a chance to-
I've got printouts of various things that they gave me that we
Yes.
discussed, that we went through. Is that what you're?
It was actually the reports that I sent you guys earlier that Ray sent me.
Yeah, and then he printed this out
Okay.
again. So, yeah, I mean, I did look through this. for both the district line and Glen Lake. I'm not sure entirely what you're asking me.
It's actually the entire budget, the 1200 series, the entire budget. This is something new we've been trying to do, which is special ed. And
Oh.
how is special ed, because
Is this the
sometimes,
tracking thing you're talking about?
Yeah.
From year to year?
yeah,
Okay.
and
No.
just taking a peek to find out how is special ed doing district-wide, because not just for your school, but for all schools in the 000. Because what happens is sometimes the money would go out of 000 because that's where it was appropriate for it to happen in that particular year. Then, as a child might be moving, they might find those expenditures move between schools, and it was kind of hard to get a big picture. When we do the MS-27, we do big picture, and it would help us to understand the big picture when we get to budgeting.
So how exactly do you want me to break down this 1200 line?
We don't know, we're looking for,
I think, just from my perspective, and not to cut you off, that, I mean, this is a huge task for me.
Yeah.
Because this is so new for me. So, I mean, yeah, did I look at this? Absolutely. Can I give you any input on it?
not yet.
So, I mean, if you can give me something, somebody, some resource.
Yep.
I'll put as much time as I need to into it.
Fair
but
enough.
To tell me to, like, do mathematical calculations on this, I'm at a loss.
I think there's two issues here. One, and it goes back to what Guy was saying before, and Phil. When you have, say, let's do the special ed line, the 1200 line, where you have para-professionals that are assigned to a student. And when they're in the New Boston budget, not in ours, and now we have 6 new paras that have to go with New Boston and Dunbarton kids. Whoop. Now all of a sudden, that might increase $200,000 or $300,000 for those paras. Then, in the 1200 line, they may not have been there the previous year, but now they're in there now. We don't know how many drop off when the kid ages out, needing an aid. And I think what I'd be more interested in, again, and I don't know if this is, I want to see yearly trend. You know, and you know, what did a 1200 line look? What does that look like over the last 5 years? Mine is, and again, I don't know if this is something that I would need Lisa or Elizabeth or anybody else to do, but I would, if you're trying to track, this would be something that I would ask of the superintendent of schools, the SAU, not of a budget committee member to compile this. I just don't.
It
And
wasn't the compilation I'm looking at. Start from the end result. The end result is we come and we do budget deliberations, but we have to do it the MS-27 level. We started looking at detailed information, each school, okay? Then we look at the same time, we do comparisons, but that's not what I'm asking. At the end, we do it in MS-27 and we see numbers. And we say, okay, what's happening in Goffstown for special ed? Well, we have to talk to 5 different people, depending on what's going on. If we can get one person to focus on special ed, that might, it's just the thought process, and I have no answers for you.
I just don't necessarily think that that
might be helpful.
My opinion is that I don't know if any of us around the table have the expertise to do that, and I think that, to me, if that's an inquiry and it's wanted, then ask the SAU to give you what you want. Now, for me, I would be curious to see what does, what is the general ed, if you look at all the MS lines, and there's, I don't know, how many are there, like 18 of them or something, or, I don't know how many there are, but let's just say that, and if you track over the last 5 years, I'd want to know what we spent, and then what was that percentage of the overall budget, okay? So that, let's just take special education. Was special education 5 years ago 25% of the budget, then it went up to 26, 27, 28, now it's 32, or has it decreased? General ed, all those, transportation, all those types of things, that's what you're looking for trends. And you can ask the question, why has the special ed budget gone up as a total proportion of the budget over the last 5 years? Why has it decreased? I think those are more relevant. And then what is driving it? Why did it go from, why did it increase 3% from last year to this year? Now, in your proposed budget, why is it 3% more or 2% less? To me, that's the data that I'd want.
And that's at budget time, really. It's not something to analyze. I'm not sure where I was going with this, but it was something to think about.
No, your point was well taken in the sense that when students go from school to school, from middle school to high school, or even from a Goffstown Elementary School, Bartlett or Maple, and then all of a sudden, those costs, then they leave that elementary school, and that could be a $500,000 cost for all intents and purposes, and then they get shifted to the middle school, and they get shifted to the high school, and there's the numbers, as Elizabeth said, they're going all over the place.
Or if you have, like you have right now, fifth graders, it's a small class in town. And it's always been that problem
That low bubble.
since 5 years ago,
Yeah.
when it was a
First
class
grade.
that needed one less teacher. So, and every time it moves up, that grade has to have one less teacher. So, not that we have one less teacher in the school, but it gets moved around, but then when you get to the middle school, it makes it even more complicated, and you get the shifting around of teachers and aides and everything else, so.
Then I guess my point is, if you look at the aggregate, which is what we did, and we took a look at 3,000 students, and I remember seeing this last year when, I don't know who someone wrote an article or something, but if that total number really has not changed, or if it's slightly decreased, then all the other stuff really won't matter a whole lot unless you have one particular driver, which can be special ed, which can bump it up significantly. It could be.
We may not change our population.
You can't do, well, yes and no, yeah, you can, and now, I think as kudos to the school board, which doesn't get often praised, they brought a lot of programs inside, so they were doing a lot of out-of-district placements, they started autism programs and other things, which has saved a boatload of money, which has maybe, I think it's lessened the impact on the budget.
That's true. I'm looking here, and I guess the report that we don't have, and I'm gonna ask them for, that we've gotten in the past, is a function report. The one we're getting is what we asked for, which is a location report.
All right.
So I will ask Ray to include as well as a function report, and what that will do is take function 1100 and put all the schools in it. So you could look at that report to see how, and I think that might be more of what I was thinking about, looking at that kind of trending.
I think Stacy has looked at this very carefully because in the last past few years, she's implemented all these policies to, bring programs in-house. And I mean, I don't think this information is going to be difficult for them to.
It exists.
Yeah.
That function report exists. It's a part of the software, and we can get that without a problem. And that is Stacy's expertise. That's where she's, if I can use the term, grown up through, is the special education. That was what, prior to her moving up the ranks, I believe that's what.
No, and you're looking for where some of the dollars that differ from our default budget and yours. I'll give you an example. There's an emotionally handicapped program at Bartlett, which was started with grant money this year. There's no grant money for next year. So that's a significant amount of money. Simple reason that it is so much more expensive, especially with that particular group of kids, to send them out of district than to keep them in district.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So with the default budget, we have to find the money to fund them because that's the most cost-effective way of doing it. It's a big chunk of change.
Can be. At 1,200, it can be and it's federally mandated, but it's not federally funded. It's hard to deal in that kind of atmosphere. Any further questions on school? Comments? Let's check that one off. You want to talk about the Goffstown Village Water Precinct?
Oh, really?
I love that. See? He's been here for a while,
Budget's
too.
okay right now, so.
But he will anyway.
That's about all we get to say.
Okay. Yeah, the wells are all working great. The pumps are working great.
No.
No?
All
The
that-
water's still a little
We gotta
discolored.
we gotta do some work on the wells and up the road here, the summer's coming. I think it's changing some filters, which could be expensive.
Is that something that's doable within your budget, or is it something that's gonna squeeze something else?
Curtail a few other things.
But the water's gonna flow.
Yeah. Well, don't stop.
Self-fulfilling prophecy.
Well put.
Questions for Dick in the Goffstown Village Water District? Grassmere Village Water District buys all their water from Manchester Waterworks.
One of the ten best water systems in the country.
The other nine.
Says the other nine, yeah. No, water's flowing, we're in budget, everything's happening,
Questions for the Grassmere Village Water District? Check off number 8. Number 9, new business, paper copies. I've actually got 2 responses. Steve LaRose would like paper, John Dillon would like paper. Anybody else want paper and not just electronic? This is an example of the March 31st, 2011 town report that you did electronically.
Yeah, I would like paper.
Okay, here you go.
I know.
John, you asked first. Did you get a copy?
Not yet. Is
Is
that the only?
I was
copy?
on the list there too.
You want to be on the list, Dick?
I
It's,
was.
it's a new one. Well, last year, right?
Is that the only copy, Dan, right there?
That was, yes.
Elizabeth, I need to get it back.
Elizabeth, you know you're affecting the town budget, right?
That was short. That was the first one. So I
Put me on the
will,
list too.
now, let me get the list down and remind me to tell you where the
regressing
mailboxes are. Dick,
It'd be cheaper to buy some
Sue,
laptops.
Elizabeth. Now, this would be, it's Dawn Borrow who have asked, but I'm also going to ask Ray to provide paper copies at the school too, because I'm presuming if you want it for the town, you want it for the school too?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so I have 5. Mailboxes are, as you go out the door, those stairs, in the lower part, there's a mailbox on the wall. The top right-hand corner is the budget committee. Inside those are some manila folders. Each manila folder should have your name on it. And inside that would be mail that you would get, which would then be including these. So you can come to town hall. If you see an email from me indicating the electronic version is ready, it's probably a good indication that you might have a paper copy there. Maybe not from the school right away, because they're gonna have to get them printed and get them walked or delivered over here. But you can, the town is probably a little closer to get there, okay? Is there any other new business? A lot of yawning. Next regular meeting will be on Wednesday, May 11th at 7 p.m. We're good with that. And I'm gonna ask for a presentation of what the default budget in detail looks like, and see if, what kind of response we get, and I'll let you know.
And how they would like to change the process.
What they'd like to what?
How they would like to improve the process, their thoughts.
We can talk about process. All right. Looking for a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Seconded by, Dick was the only one who seconded. I don't know who moved it. Who moved it?
I did.
Scott moved it. Dick seconded. All in favor, please, by raising your hand. Any opposed? Any abstain? Unanimous. We are, oh, I forgot one.